Gentlemen, good night, and let me officially welcome you to Christchurch Speaks, your opportunity to interact with your MPs, the Prime Minister, other members of the Cabinet, and senior public officers about any issues that you wish to raise. As I explained to you earlier, if you are speaking tonight, you must be from the parish of Christchurch. And before you do, you need to go to the table at the back of the room on my right, and they will take information from you, basic information, and they'll give you a number. Once you have that number, you can come and take take one of these seats immediately in front of me. And once your time is up, you can go to the mic and then sit anywhere else in the audience, leaving those spaces free for others who are still waiting to speak. So with that, and without further ado, since we are a little behind time, again, welcome to Christchurch Speaks. Prime Minister, over to you.
Good night, everyone. Can you hear me? Not yet still. Can you hear better at the back? Incrementally? Soundman? I have no knobs in front of me. We good? I sound tinny, but that's at the board as well. Good evening, everyone, and welcome again. As we said, we're going to go straight in so as to allow people to be able to get in from as early. And as I said, remember, because of the public offices, we have a hard stop at 10 o'clock because people have been obviously working all day and are here to help service. So we thank them, and therefore we try to live within that time frame. Please, who's first? Thank you, ma'am.
Somebody to help me again. It's on? Good night. My name is Shara Ali. I've been here 3 times. Today's the 3rd time I'm here. Prime Minister, I come back with the same issue, and it have not been resolved. And nobody can help me. The last time you sent me to the registrar, you sent me to the ombudsman. Nobody can help me, so I'm coming back to you to help me.
This has to do with a legal matter, not true?
Yes, please.
So guess what?
You can help me.
I can't help you, and I wish I could, but I am not. If I tried to help you, Wilfred, as acting Attorney General, what would that mean?
That'd be interference in the judicial process. You be prejudicing
So
the matter.
you see, the opposition would love me to help you, because then I would become dictator number 1 and vagabond number 1.
Okay.
So I can't, and look, I feel your pain.
You do?
I do, because it's not only you. There are a number of others, and I have already spoken how I feel. That's why the government introduced new bail legislation, because we had people who have committed 2 and 3 murders being given bail in this country again too. But as much as I disagree with it, I can't reach into the court and stop them from doing it just so.
But you
So
can
that
say
the
why.
most we can do as the executive
Yes.
is to pass legislation.
Yes.
Now, if your matter happens to fall in an area that we can solve via legislation, then we can help you. If it resolves only around, and the AG walks in at the right time, if it revolves only around the specifics of your dispute, then I can't help. So what I will do, and I don't want you to do it publicly, is I take it that Roy has the full details of your matter. I will see if there's a policy solution separate from a legal solution. Is that fair?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
That's the limit of what I can do, because
You can
other than
direct me
that,
to the same AG or the acting AG.
and the AG nor the acting AG
Can I
can't
help
reach
you?
into the court either. The most we can do is make sure they got money, make sure that the building's in good shape, make sure that they got staff. But thereafter, you see, once them pleadings file, so I what I can do. can't do a thing. And this is not just Barbados. This is all over and everywhere because of the separation of powers. That's why we need to bring back, I'm told that they're doing it again, the civics in schools, so that people understand the system of government and governance and know what is appropriate for who, when, and where. So I feel your pain in ways that I can't even begin to tell you. And not that this is going to come up, but to show you how separate and apart the courts, the judicial system, judiciary, and the executive, which is the cabinet and the public servants are. You cannot remove a judge in this country without a tribunal. Correct, AG? So that even if somebody working bad, you have to have a tribunal and an entire process, because there must be no hint of any kind of political interference or interference from anybody, even in the public service.
But who protecting us?
But that's
Who
what I'm
protect us
telling
from
you.
these people that
So
got
that
this
if
power?
there is an issue, you can then write, if there's an issue with delay in judgment, AG, come and talk, this is your area. If there's an area with delay in judgment, or judges not writing judgments over and over and over, there is the possibility of them having to answer for those things. Now, I happen to know that the Chief Justice has put systems in place to be able to ensure that those judges that have not written their judgments are in a position to do so by being given both time and support. But there's only so much we can do.
But it goes
And I call Christchurch the belling of the judicial cat, because almost every other complaint year after year in Christchurch relates to the malfunctioning or the dysfunctional nature of the court system. This government has increased the number of judges from how many? We have put over 8 High Court judges and 1 Court of Appeal judge in place. Okay? So it's not a case of resources. It's not a case of resources. The new Chief Justice is sensitive to the fact of the delays, and as I said, I'm aware that he has put systems in place. Please. Yeah. He wants to speak to you privately.
Glad for that. Thank you very much. Come, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Good night, Minister Martin. I come to thank you very much, because the last time you saw me at this foundation school, I had a complaint about the house. Merlin Brewster, Christchurch Essential. I named Merlin Brewster. I had the rats coming in, and by 2 months ago, I get a new house. I want to thank you, but I got a problem. One, you told the windows ain't opening, and the bedroom are getting very hot air. The light bill must go on to $200 now, because I got to know the fan all the time. So I want to send somebody from road department to me. And the next problem is, we got a lot of rats in the air, and the bush won't push away.
Okay.
The house and young boys come up today and they clear the road, but then they call me, they said, Mr. Strong, he ain't answering me. That's where I got the problem with. I was calling him, I called Mr. Adriel Fort out in Bahama, and he answered me because the young fella wants some work. And Mr. Ford really look up for the fella, but I see tonight to tell you that Mr. Ford gonna be here. But his mother here, the boy mother here. Next thing too, I don't know where I can get my pension now. Next month, maybe 60, Miss Martley. My graduate pension, get an early pension. I know it's 60 next month. But my son, they work in here on authority, and by the time they're in power, they lay off, and they take the plane and go to the girlfriend to get work in America. The girlfriend gets some work with him and left the boy here to go to school. The boy went to go along. Because he's coming back to tell me to get married soon. And listen to me. The next problem we got, the road. The road at Butlers and at the Green Road. When they open the window, try to open the window, when the water come in the road, the water coming through the bedroom and then I let go for me now get in no house. The water coming through the bedroom window. So when I came back, somebody look at me.
All right.
I go on, thank you.
All right, Ms. Brewster. So I've already sent in the request for you to be able to get the windows looked at. No problem. Yeah. Well, you said you got the house 2 months ago, so we'll have it in the records.
Right. Ma'am, just to let you know, Butlers has already been assessed, and our intention is certainly to fix it as well. Evergreen. We'll check that out as well.
Thank you, Ms. Brewster, and thank you. Please, who's next?
Good night. I am Antoinette Goddard. I am Antoinette Goddard. I'm here on behalf of...
Just give us where you live, that's all, the district.
I live in Black Rock, but I have a vested interest in property at 252 Kingston Terrace.
So here's what we're going to do,
Hamilton,
because I noticed
Christchurch.
that you are in a thing. We're going to take you separately, but we only take people who live in the parish. So, Roy,
Well,
you're which is Kingsland Gardens, right?
Kingston Terrace, Christchurch.
Kingsland Terrace. So if you come
But-
here, Ryan, just see her for a second, and we'll get the information from you right
But I'm
away.
not only speaking on my behalf, Madam
I know,
Prime Minister,
but because
I'm
we've
speaking
taken
on
a
behalf
strong-
of my neighbors who can't get here because they're
No problem.
in
You
worse
speak.
state than
You
me.
speak. You speak to Minister Strong right now. He's not even going to put you off. You speak to him now. We'll take the problem, but we've taken a position, meeting after meeting, that we just deal with people who live in the parish, because if not, it becomes unmanageable. Okay.
Thank you.
So we're not going to send you home without consultation right now, because I know that you have made a great effort to get here.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Next person.
Good evening. Good evening. Anybody?
It's on, Mary.
Huh?
It's on.
It's on. I ain't know what happened. I ain't hearing
You
it.
speak
You
soft,
can hear me?
Mary, all the time.
All right. Mary Yearwood / Clovel Sinclair. Wilcox Hill, Christchurch. No. I believe, Prime Minister, in the wrap-up, I think it was in the discussion with the Light and Power. Senator Kerry, not Senator, the Honorable Kerry Simmons, in his wrap-up, he made a very illuminating statement. He made a quote from Nelson Mandela, where he talked about the black bourgeoisies, where they use their positions to undermine the interests of black people. Now, when he said that, I wondered where we have the black bourgeoisies here in Barbados. Now, it's amazing that a previous speaker, actually the first speaker, came here to talk about some legal matters. I too have legal matters to deal with. Now, the past 2 years I came here to the Parish Speak. I went over to the table there to discuss matters that were supposed to remain somewhat private. Nothing came of that. I went to the ombudsman, nothing came of that. You come here tonight, third year, and it is being said, with separation of powers, there's very little you can do. So where does that leave the average citizen in Barbados who suffers with problems within the judicial system? Now, what I want to highlight is that you made mention of the fact that you increased the judges from 5 to 8. Sorry, 5 to 13. Okay? A lot of the times I hear a lot of focus mostly on the criminal law. 10,000 backlog in the system and that type of thing. What happened to the civil matters in the civil division? This is what I want to know. The average person who has problems with property, problems with wills where people wanted to go ahead and claim what was not theirs. What happens to these cases if we have to sit down and wait till all these criminal matters dealt with? Who is addressing the the civil matters? Now the Chief Justice told the judges, the new lawyers, the new batch of 53, not to concentrate on taking away clients' money. I didn't hear the Chief Justice also point out to them to learn to answer the phone when people call them. I didn't hear him tell them to return calls to the clients. If they know that they don't want to deal with a particular client, I ain't hear him tell them, put together the people file and tell them come for it. But all of these things, you hear separation of powers. Now, that leads me to the Bar Association. I mentioned earlier Clovel Sinclair, who I am defending here as well. In 1984, 2 parcels of land were purchased. He and his sister bought 2 properties. They called the lawyer on many occasions. The lawyer never returned the call. The matter eventually ended up before the Bar Association. For that matter to get to the Bar Association to make some sort of impact, I had to be on the Bar Association like white pan rice for them to even serve the lawyer. Now these are the type of things that going on in this country. You understand? And to hear that you don't have any power because of separation of powers.
No, ma'am. Mary, be very clear. If you're going to quote me right.
Well,
I said that on individual matters, I cannot get involved. I said that if there are policy solutions or systemic solutions, I can get involved. Not true? So please, let's be very clear. Because if at the end of the day, what is happening, and the AG will speak, because we're trying to get the rules to the commercial court done, we're trying to get new probate rules done, AG. So all of these things are intended to take an old system and make it more relevant and more user-friendly. On Friday, you saw that we had a whole session all day with land and land transactions, but I can't reach in and go and get involved in any individual case, nor can anybody here in the political class or any public servant there either. Does that make you understand the difference?
I understand
Right.
you.
So
And I withdraw the statement.
that's all right. But what I want you to know is that I am deeply disturbed because I have also said that the rules governing disciplinary actions against lawyers need to be modernized. And in fact, what hurts me is that I left AG, we left a system there for the modernization of that. It has not come back around. And in fact, it was there, the bar commented on it under the last government, after about 4 or 5 years of having it, so that I am fully empathetic to the point that people may say that I am being unfair. But I feel strongly that the disciplinary process with the Bar Association needs modernization. And as Attorney General, one of the last things that I did was to put it there, but it is up now to the bar and the lawyers and the AG for us to find a way forward, because I'm tired of hearing stories from people like you who feel that they have been totally disadvantaged or prejudiced. And we won't get into the details of individual cases, but suffice it to say that the architecture that we have to resolve complaints needs to be more timely.
Well, I can agree with you more.
Mary, just before you go, let me at least help you with one of the things that I can actually help you with directly. If you give me the information on that complaint, I'm going to check with the disciplinary committee for you. I'm going to find out exactly where the matter is and if there's anything else required from your part to push the matter forward. So if you give me the information, I undertake within the next 7 days to come back to you and tell you exactly what the status of that matter is, and then you can decide what you're doing after that.
All right,
Okay?
but just let me, because I was thinking about this, right? I am thinking that the Bar Association, they have the right to do what they have to do as an association, right? I don't want to take that from them. But I would like for y'all to want to look at the possibility of setting up some sort of watchdog association, even if it includes other lawyers or magistrates or judges from other regional jurisdictions, because we need somebody that we can have get behind these people.
So what I will tell you as well is that I happen to know that among the recommendations for the disciplinary committee is exactly that, the inclusion of non-lawyers and civil society on the panel. So when those amendments to the Legal Profession Act and the disciplinary rules come into play, you will actually see a different type of panel than you're seeing now. So civil society will be represented on the panel. So I can tell you that that is definitely there among the things that are contemplated by the new legislation.
Look, my heart hurts me. You know what it hurts me for? To see that the Prime Minister in her budget this year talked about the change in demographics in this country where everybody getting old. So the bar sits down there on cases. I'm wondering how much cases they got there where people land that they sit down on and nobody don't even know what is going on with people property, or they even contacting the families and telling the families that there's a matter there that has to be looked into. A lot of things need to be looked into in this country. A lot of these matters that before the civil court. A lot of people dead and leave money in the bank accounts. I would like to know if the central bank can get something out of that money that the bank's holding on upon. Because every year you can hear the banks making all sorts of profits and everybody out here sucking salt. And the banks making millions. Or for people money that inside of there. And we out here who's supposed to be benefiting from the funds can't get nothing. A case got any right being in court for 30 and 40 years? So what happened with the money that's sitting down in the bank accounts? Obviously it accruing and attracting some sort of profits and interest. So who benefiting from that? The central bank. As a matter of fact, when it should be passing legislation to ensure that
Mary,
any cases...
You sound as though you are a good platform speaker.
Any cases...
But before you get there, give Ryan a chance to answer you on that one point about what happens with the money, because there is a process.
All right.
Okay?
Thanks, PM. So what happens ordinarily is that any account within the financial system that becomes dormant after a period, dormant means the person is either deceased or they've moved from the jurisdiction and not used the account for a particular period of time. Ever so often you will see in the newspaper, banks will put out the name of the person, the amount of money that's in the account, their last address. That is done routinely as part of the process to allow people to know that money is there for your family or what have you. And therefore, after 10 years, that money is turned over to the central bank for a holding from the specific financial institution. Now, just to be clear, government can use that money for budget support. However, if someone comes forward for the money, the accountant general will just refund the person the monies that were in the account, but it is really just held really notionally and made available to persons with the interest. Once the matter is settled, if there's a administrative process to be completed in the court, then those monies are returned from there. So the banks aren't necessarily making any quote-unquote profit on that, except to say that their obligation, which they discharge, is every year you will see in the newspaper all those accounts that fall into that category where there's no activity. After 10 years, they say, you come and you get the money, otherwise we can turn it over to the central bank. But the money is safe, and once a claim is made, the government, through the accountant general, will refund the monies to those individuals. Once the court decides who to give the money to, then that is what is done.
So to be clear, you're saying to me that any matter that is in court, that goes over to the central bank?
Well, after 10 years.
After 10 years. Oh,
right? After
okay.
10 years, where there's no activity on the account, and they advertise to say, these are the monies that are here. And if nobody comes for it after 10 years, for whatever reason, it is handed over to central bank, and then the government has access to that for use. But once a claim on those accounts are made, the government refunds the money to those persons. A legitimate claim, as the Prime Minister is saying.
So after 10 years, I now see the magical figure, 10 years, boy, them always sitting down on the cases and they can't finish not till after 10 years.
I don't think there's any correlation between
You think
that
so?
and the cases, but
Now I want to talk about the tribunal.
You know, Mary, sometimes, and I'm going back to the AG because there are other people who have to speak. So we're giving you and winding you up now.
I can make it
Hold on,
quick.
no. Listen, let me finish. The bottom line is that not everything is a conspiracy. And I need to say so. Because the notion that you have had delay among cases cannot be directly correlated to a little known fact, because I believe most lawyers don't even know at the top of their head that that money goes into effectively the central bank after 10 years. You understand? So I wouldn't want you to make the connection and create now another step. If you want to talk to me about the bank's profits, I with you. If you want to talk to me about the fact that the banks start giving you interest at 0.01%, I with you. If you want to tell me that you pay in the bank to keep your money, I with you. But I am with you on that correlation, and I don't want it to go from here as something that we are condoning by silence. AG?
Thanks, PM, and Mary, good night. Obviously, you have some concerns about the quality of service provided, perhaps in your case or a case known to you by lawyers. I think that, as with most things, a few bad apples spoil the barrel. I've been a member of the legal profession, like the Prime Minister, for almost 35, 36 years. There are, and there will always continue to be, one or two lawyers who create problems I tuned in on your presentation when you said, if you can't handle the case, give it to somebody else. That is not an unusual thing. They're contractors and they know they can't build a hotel, but they can take it just to see if they can make some money off of it. The Bar Association does not condone misconduct on the part of law. Government will never condone misconduct on the part of any professional, whether it is lawyers or accountants, whether it is doctors or carpenters. We are amending the Legal Profession Act to tighten up the rules and to make lawyers more accountable to their clients. And I was informed by the president of the Bar Association that, well, I know that they have the amendments and that they expect to complete that the review of those amendments before the end of this month. I therefore expect that before the end of the year we will have new, well, mostly new legislation which will deal with discipline of attorneys, so that where they carry away clients' money, where they're not working properly, we can effectively disbar them. In relation to lawyers moving slowly, I don't think there's any defense for that, but we have to take each case on its own merits, and I don't know what specific circumstance you're dealing with. Very often, there's the issue of availability of documents, and I'm mindful that I'm speaking to you as the Attorney General, so my only client is the government, but I can't ignore my professional experience. Clients will say, I want this done, and the lawyer is very happy to do it, but sometimes the essential ingredients are not there. So before we paint everybody with one brush, and I would like to know what the specifics are, so maybe we can talk afterwards as well. It may be that there are unavailable documents and so on, which prevent the matter from being resolved quickly. As I said, I don't know what your specifics are, and just like I spoke with Cheryl just now, she didn't like what I have to say, but I think we came away as friends, and she understands what may have gone wrong in her case, and I hope, Mary, that you and I can have the same discussion afterwards, all right? But I can promise you that we are tightening up on the matter of discipline of attorneys, because attorneys are in a position of trust, and they have to be responsible and accountable in that regard.
I get to finish my last point now, Prime Minister. I just want to talk about what's going on with the ERT.
No problem. But I want you, the ERT is becoming full-time, so I could tell you that one time. You don't need to talk anymore because we are already resolving the issue. Up to Monday, the social partnership was. The Minister of Labour gave a presentation at the social partnership and the ERT for everybody is the Employment Rights Tribunal. So we're making it into a full-time body, because what we inherited was a part-time entity, AG, and I think the Minister of Labour would have spoken to you as well, so that what we will have is 2 full-time chairmen eventually, and then a rotating panel of persons. Is that the case, AG? That's correct. Right. So.
But I hear more from Senator Monique Tate on the circumstances with the ERT than I did hearing from this government, though.
Because Senator Monique Tate can speak freely without having to apply the law and to go through processes. In order for us to go through the processes, you think I can say, I want a second ERT tomorrow. Mr. President, what can happen to me? Other than it become just oxygen used, can't go nowhere. But in order for the Minister of Labour to do it, what has to happen? Let's go through the process, because we got some unreasonable expectations about here that we got to deal with. In order to change a system that is a quasi-judicial system, what do you think, how many processes you think they got to go through?
I ain't got a clue.
Oh, well, enough. So let me start, because you got more clue. Cause anybody that sit down and remember Kerry Simmons' speech and a wrap up got more clue than they want to give access. Huh? I come to town recently, and I certainly didn't come to Oystons last night. So my point is this, honestly. You have to go through an entire process. We would have received feedback from the former chair, of the Employment Rights Tribunal that they were under severe pressure and that we therefore need to look at the possibility of additional funding. When that additional funding has to be put there, the government has to make sure it has money to pay, correct? Because if we don't pay, what can happen? Everybody gonna holler for murder.
The mega strike.
Secondly, you have to make sure that you assess the amount of cases that coming in and then make a determination. Thirdly, the Employment Rights Tribunal is a tripartite body, so that even if we appoint a full-time chairman, you still have to depend on who? The private sector and the labor organizations to appoint others. Invariably, they're not going to appoint full-time people, so it therefore means that we have to be able to have a panel of them to ensure who is available to go and hear cases. Then you have to write the paper within the ministry and settle on the policy. Then you have to come up to the cabinet for approval. Then invariably, you're probably going to have to amend the legislation, which means that you've got to bring another paper in order to give drafting instructions, because a parliamentary council who is a drafter can't just read your mind or can't sit down and talk with you. They need a paper to guide the drafting of it. Then it has to compete with all of the other pieces of legislation. AG, you got what, over 100 pieces of legislation that you're all dealing with? Closer to 200. So we have to work out what is a priority thing. We have determined that this is a priority for us, and therefore we're trying to push it ahead in order to get there. But I want to go back, because I'm now in a position to afford things that I could not afford 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 6 years ago. And I wonder why. Because, Ryan, what did we inherit? A government that had limited fiscal space to do anything that was even highly desirable, far less optional. Because we were literally spending most of our money when we came into office doing two things: paying debt and paying salaries. No rent, no goods and services. Government had bad credit all about the place. Everybody complaining. Or $1.9 billion in arrears. In arrears. In money owing to Bajans and Bajan companies then, and to NIS, and to government. So we have fixed a lot of that. You saw what happened today? Fitch give us another upgrade. Every time we get that, that improves our ability, one, to be able to do what we have to do, because it reduces ultimately the cost of money over time. And if we spend less money in interest there, it means I got more money to spend in something else there. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So you see that thing that the IMF do on Friday, where they remove the surcharges? Anybody saw the story this weekend? Okay. So the others like to say that I traveling. When I go out there, what do you think I doing? Barbados has been at the forefront of the countries arguing for either the removal or the reduction of surcharges at the IMF. What has it meant in real terms to us, dollar terms? That we will save $12.5 million a year on what we are paying now. And what we are paying now is influenced by the fact that interest rates have increased for the most part across the world compared to where they were. That $12.5 million is 25 million Barbados dollars per year. And prior to November 1st, when this changes, we would have to look for that $25 million to pay. So next year, I know I got that $25 million back to help me with either roads or hospital or healthcare or education or whatever. Am I making sense? Mm-hmm. So, you know why these parish speaks are important too? Because it allows us to explain to people how government functions and how we can moderate our expectations, because more often than not, people don't know and people will make assumptions or do like you and make the correlation between the lawyers and the central bank money when the two ain't got nothing to do with one another. You know, it's a coincidence, but it's a coincidence that sounds sweet. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
And may I say, you clearly sound as though you need to have a platform somewhere. You are articulate. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dulene Bradshaw. Dulene, D-U-L-E-N-E, Bradshaw. And I'm from 4th Avenue, Dover. And I have two issues this evening. The first one is the drainage. Every single avenue in Dover, as soon as the rain falls heavily, you can't walk through the road. You're walking in knee-deep water, so we just need a solution to that. We did have a visit from drainage, I think it was last month, but part of the problem for 4th Avenue is that they don't have anywhere to pump the water off. They would need to bring a truck, pump the water into the truck, and there seem to be limited trucks, so that never happened. So I actually had contacted the polyclinic, and they came and put something in the water to stop the mosquitoes because we were getting mosquitoes in the area. So we need to figure out what is going on there.
First of all, I'm not sure that we are related.
I'm not sure. I think my family were actually Maxwell's and Oliver's
Right,
from
okay,
Bathsheba or
just
something like
checking.
that.
All right, so I'm very familiar with the issues in Dover, and I think on the last Parish Speaks, we would have indicated that we were trying to do some drainage studies within that area to be able to resolve problems, not just in the Dover area, but in other areas that have been flood prone across Barbados for several years. So currently, the initial stage of the drainage assessment and the concept designs have actually been done for the area, and I'm hopeful that by early next year, once we have some dry weather, that we will actually be able to start the actual work within the Dover area to resolve that issue.
But then meanwhile, can we get more frequent cleaning of the drainage?
Right,
Because
so
I think that was
yeah.
a big part of the
Yeah.
problem. The block
We've
drainage.
actually increased the number of teams that are cleaning and
Okay.
also the number of well contractors. I think there's a tender out presently for a number of well contractors to be able to
Okay.
bid, because we recognize that particularly with climate change, we are seeing obviously areas that didn't flood before flooding, and we have some old areas that have been long standing that we're trying to address. So places like Goodland Gardens, also in Christchurch, Wilcox, those are high priority. And before anybody else asks the questions, those are also on the priority list for us to be able to do flood engineering assessments with a view to being able to do actual works in those areas.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Dover, Wharton,
Yeah, in all of the
and
avenues.
Goodland Gardens. Yeah, Goodland Gardens has been knocking around from the time I was a child, so
Okay.
that's been major.
Okay, so my other issue, which is the big issue, the Sandals laundry. Since Sandals has been operating there, we have had noise, we have had stench, the lint, and because I'm a visual person, I brought along some to show you. This is the lint. I took some of this from the patio this morning. This is just 1% of what is there. Okay? Now, that's the lint issue, which covers everything every day. The noise. Now, initially, they seem to have been running 24 hours a day. But when I called to complain about the noise waking me at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, they weren't sure why it was running at that time. But surprisingly, I received an email advising that they would discontinue the graveyard shift. So how do you not know it is running at that time, but you know there's a graveyard shift?
Of the lint, but I was aware of the noise. And I see you don't need to prove no more. But I asked Senior Minister to speak to them about the graveyard shift. And he spoke about them. No,
Sorry.
We can govern, don't worry about it. You have made a case against them. They have a right to be heard. I am not going to try them in public, as I would not agree to try anybody else in public. But you have done enough to ask me to cause both Minister Ford and Senior Minister Duguid to meet with them as a matter of urgency, but also to ask Minister Ford to have the Environmental Protection Department go and prepare a report such that we are in a position to have the independent evidence kicked upstairs?
Listen, they stopped the graveyard shift, okay? But they now operate 7:30 a.m. to 9 p.m., which in a residential area still is not acceptable. Some mornings, about 5:30, 6 o'clock, they wake us by pressure washing whatever machines they have. They're pressure washing at that time. Nonsense. Then there is a stench. Now, they try to, I don't even know what's the word, pretend that
All you're doing is telling me that we need to have the independent report, and they need, and
But-
the EPD people need to know
but-
whether
but-
that
but
is an
EPD
appropriate activity for continued operations from the site at which they're operating
but
it.
EPD has been there.
But I have not seen the EPD report, have you?
EPD went there, and every time I called about the report, oh, we're going to submit it to Sandals, et cetera, et cetera. Then I kept calling, and I was told, oh, it has not been approved.
You do the right thing, so we will find the report. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it, because reports have been there before at cement plant. A report was there, and I didn't know about it until I make noise about 3 years ago and send for the reports.
Well, we need
so
something
we
done
will,
urgently.
I hear you. I hear you.
It's been years.
And I've asked, and Minister Ford
It's
has
been
heard you.
years.
Get the report and let us see it, and let us also meet with Sandals, give them an opportunity to be heard, but at the same time recognize that there has to be a balancing of people's interests, and the first interest is the public health.
Can I, before I close, can I also ask you to find out from Ralph Thorne what his meeting produced when he went in 2021? Because he did have a meeting with him.
I cannot speak for Mr. Thorne now. I
I'm-
could not speak for him then, and I certainly
I am
cannot
just
speak for
letting
him in
you
the
know.
future.
I am just letting you know. We
I
went
hope it's
through
not
all
a case
of that.
I hope it's not a case of easy come, easy go.
I will just say I personally met with the general manager of Sandals at the time, Mr. Ramel Sabrino. I have met with Lucky. I have met with David Hines. Ralph Thorne supposedly met with them also, and this is years. So, yeah, I heard so. I heard he's their lawyer, so, but anyhow. So I need some help, please. In fact, all the residents need help. So I am representing all of the
Julene,
residents.
just be careful what you say. What you say is being broadcast,
Okay,
and I don't want you to end up in any trouble. Just be careful.
okay. That's why I said supposedly, allegedly. I used the right words, didn't I? Supposedly, allegedly. But seriously, the residents need some help. It is detrimental when you're looking at the environment, mentally, physically, financially. They have been totally detrimental to the entire area. So we need some help. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and I will ask that Minister Ford and Senior Minister Duguid, once we have the meetings, that we don't only represent to you, Ms. Bradshaw, but all the other people living in the district who are clearly affected, because I'm sure it's not your house alone. Exactly. So, and Chantal, you will keep an interest on it for me, please. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, one and all. My name is Dr. Keisha Yearwood. I've come here tonight to address a long-standing issue with the incorporation of Cuban medical graduates into Barbados medical system. I can quote David Denny, president of the Barbados-Cuban Friendship Association, where he wrote an article in the Sunday Sun stating, "This has been an ongoing issue since 1998, and I believe it's time that it should be resolved before Her Right Honorable Mia Motley should leave office." Yes.
Okay. Where do you live?
Warren's Village, Christchurch.
Sorry?
Warren's Village, Christchurch.
Warners?
Warren's Village, Christchurch.
Okay, got you. Go ahead. No problem. Sorry about that.
Okay. So in multiple other countries who have sent students into the program have found a system in which they are then incorporated into their healthcare system when they have returned. This is in such as Trinidad, Jamaica, Guyana, Grenada, St. Lucia, Belize, Antigua, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Dominica. So, why is it that it is so hard for Barbados to come up with a system to help integrate these graduates? Moreover, there are only an average of 3 graduates per year. 2022, 2 graduates. 2023, 3 graduates. 2024, 3 graduates. And in 2025, there will be 2. This government has trusted Cuban doctors and nurses when they were in a time of need during the COVID pandemic. Why then is it difficult to trust Barbados Cuban graduates when they come back? We are given a grant each year to aid in the small financial needs as scholarship holders. But then we are not able to then give back to the government and the community because of the lack of effective integration into the system. Moreover, every graduate prior to 2019 is now furthering their medical field outside of Barbados. No, we are not asking for much. I am just coming here with questions of how to integrate us into the system. They're not just questions, but we have solutions. There are options. Option 1, they can be a provisional license where these graduates have a year of paid internship in QEH, after which they can then do CAMC because it is an expensive exam and it is also done in another country. These exams are only done in Jamaica and Trinidad. Hence, funds are needed. Option 2, an observership.
Which exam is this?
CAMC. Option 2, an observership for 3 months, followed by a paid internship for a year in the public health system. Option 4, option 3.
Give me back option 2 again, please. You're moving fast.
Option 2, an observership for 3 years. 3 months, followed by a paid internship for a year in the public health system. Another option, an institutional license, where a private institution can take in these graduate doctors and nurture them under their tutelage. Another option is a structured course in UWI K-Field Campus Barbados for approximately 6 months, and then a paid internship. No, it does not have to be that we come in with the July batch of interns where we know that is a flooded system then. It can be in January where there are less interns coming in and there is space for us to be incorporated, because I know in January it is when the field interns then do over their internship that they would have had time to do before, right? So it's only 3 of us, 2 of us is not much. We are not being unreasonable in our acts, and this has been an ongoing issue for a very long time.
Okay. The reality is that Cabinet took the decision already. Hopefully, based on what I just heard you say, begin to meet the problems that you have faced over the years. And these problems go back, and the Medical Association, BAMP, and them, as well as UWI, were very adamant, well, you know it better than me, that they should not recognize. And we make the point that why not? Because from prime ministers and presidents right back down go to Cuba every week, every month in this region for treatment. So I hope that you are close to the end of it, because this is an issue that goes back to the early 2000s, correct?
1998 to be exact.
I was Minister of Education.
Yeah.
I was the first boy to send students down there. That's why I know.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So that's why for us, this has to be resolved. but the minister has brought what we think is an acceptable framework. Some of what you have said is similar to it, so I trust and pray that when the comments come back from UWI and they put and communicate with you all, we can put this behind us once and for all.
Well, my issue with that is you said a 6-month observership. However, when we do a 6 months of observership, there's still no funds involved.
Funds for what? You having a different conversation. You don't want to talk about certification anymore, you want to talk about employment.
Yes.
I can understand, but hold on, I can understand that. But the biggest issue is not that. The employment issues are easy. The issue that is hard was dealing with the medical regulation. Because over that, we don't have the same level of capacity, which is why you have to do the exam. Because there's nobody sitting at this table that could say that you're a doctor or not. We can acknowledge that an entity that is supposed to certify you has certified you. So fret not your heart. The hardest part of it has now been dealt with. And we are still a country where we do not have people working for free.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And when it finishes, please let me know. Okay? The CEO of the hospital is here, so he will know as well that really and truly that is part and parcel of some of the people that he will have to be taken shortly to help out in this matter. Okay, Mr. Clark is there. So you should have a conversation before you leave. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Blessed good evening. My name is Deborah King. I'm from Butler's Avenue, God Hill Christ Church. But I get an answer from you already because I'm here to talk about the road and you gave me an answer about the road. Thank you.
Yeah, we dealt with Butler's just now on Evergreen Road, so thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Good night to all. First of all, let me express my sympathies on behalf of your stalwart who's looking down on you.
Thank you, thank you.
Next thing, I would like to congratulate the new MP. I didn't hear about any by-election, but I see a
There's
new
no
one
MP.
there. No.
I'm not going to
they
let you.
introduce themselves as MPs. I heard that in the
No.
introduction. Anyhow, you
and I both know better.
Listen, the last time the previous
Okay, you
MP
give me
was
give me
here-
guidance. You give me guidance last time.
Right. The last time the previous MP was here, he was square as a church mouse. But he has since grown up. I will leave the rest there. My name is Grant Seeley, and I'm from over in Barrington. Now, a number of matters came up the last time I was here on the 23rd of October. One was the dump at Newton or opposite Gildan. So I thank you greatly for closing it. But we have created another monster. There is a dump now at the Science Park. Along with that, every day you got between 5 and 10 gentlemen running as far up as the roundabout with coconut water pushing it in your face. I have blown on them several times. They've even gone so far as to put a chair now in the road. Okay, I would like something to be done about it. I told you all last year for the coconut vendors, the best thing for them is use a truck or a trailer. It is no sense the government expensing themselves moving coconut shells. A truck or a trailer, you bring your coconuts, you operate with them there, and you leave with them on afternoons. That is all I want to do. And that is all I want is for you to get those fellas off the highway. A serious accident is going to happen within the next few days.
Mr. Seeley, it happened already, and I started talking, but let me also tell you, we moved them off the highway by Newton. Exactly where the BIDC building going now.
I know.
The bottom line is that having been moved off of the highway, men start running across the road in spite of being moved off the highway. Now, there's only one entity in Barbados that is empowered at law to keep order. Who's that?
The coconut vendors.
No.
No, it can't be the police. It's the coconut vendors.
No. But you being facetious, I don't have that luxury. I don't have that luxury at
No,
all.
because they seem to be law unto themselves.
And therefore, AG, how many times have we raised this matter on matters of peace and order?
Good night, sir. This matter has been canvassed on numerous occasions with the police service. We've always tried to be very sympathetic with small businesses, and that's why we took the decision to relocate them to a place where we felt they could still play their trade, but that the rules of the road would be respected and that they wouldn't pose a threat to any other users of the road. But there's a level of indiscipline that we have to confront. They want to be able to do as they please. And when the authorities clamp down on them, then unfortunately you can hear everybody saying, the poor black man, we're the worst people in the world, and so on. If we decided we can stop you from selling coconuts in that area at all, you will hear that we are not supportive of small businesses. It is always difficult for a government to enforce some of its regulations, but the Prime Minister and I have both spoken to the police. But like with many things, when you're not looking, they scamper back out and they do as they please. I give you the assurance, sir, I will speak to the police service tomorrow again, and I will ask that they occupy some time in that area with a heavy hand. I hope that when the heavy hand comes down, that you will join in the shouts of acclamation to say that the police are doing the right thing. I appreciate your support in advance.
Mr. Attorney General, I have spoken to the police already, so I'm not waiting on yours. I have spoken to them already about it. Second item from last year. I spoke to y'all about a serious matter between Newton Roundabout and Searles Roundabout with the markings. Now the edge of the road going by the golf course is about 1 foot high as against the others, which is about 3-4 inches. When it is dark, you do not be able to see that and negotiate. There's supposed to be some markings in the road. I heard that the money would come back into the consolidated fund or some area like that last year, that there's no way that they couldn't have money. Last year, y'all told me that they just got money to do the markings. They ain't marked yet. The road up there is still the same way.
See people marking when they come up here tonight, right there by Garfield Sobers roundabout.
Yes, but
my only thing is, and I didn't know how I feel, because to mark at 5 and 6 o'clock in the evening and 6:30 in the evening is too early, and it causes traffic blockages all the time. And we already, William, from when you were there, agreed that you can work late at night. So I'm not sure why they're there at this hour. But equally, I'm sure that the DPM will find out for you what is the issue on the markings that causing a problem when the same highway is being marked as we speak tonight.
I understand. Okay, next item from last year. Going from off the highway through St. David's, to St. David's through Bannantine. I asked last year about the equipment. I mentioned that I usually call South Point, and the word is the equipment breakdown. I heard last year that the equipment was all going to UCAL and we would have this equipment up and ready and there. The situation across between Bannantine and St. David's, which is used heavily by 16-wheelers on morning hauling oil, and in the last week by dump trucks coming from down St. David's, coming right up through the highway, is that 1/3 of the road is taken up by bush. It is high now as the high tension wires. We cannot say we have potholes out there, we have craters. So you can picture yourself in the night game catch out there. I would like to invite my representative or the minister responsible to pass through there during the daytime. I don't want to come at night, it is too risky. Just come through in the daytime and see the problems that I and the other residents have to face, and all the other people. And as I said, this is from last year. this year.
Except that, Mr. Seeley, I can disagree with you. Because if it was from last year, it would be 20, 30 feet high. Because, no, let me get real. The rain that we've been getting has been excessive. And Santia knows how I feel about the bush, so I ain't defending nothing. All through the country, I went up to see Sir Henry Monday night. You understand? So I know exactly what we're talking about. And even areas where there has been reasonably regular debushing has gotten out of hand because of the scale and level of rain that we have. So I'd like us to be a little more thing. It's easy to say, oh, from last year. You and I both know that that can be from last year and that they had to have cut the bush somewhere along the way, but they also did patching. Now the reality is that whatever patching you did, the 4 to 6 weeks of convection rain you had, what do you think it do about here? It's the same problem. So let us work to solve it. I hear you, and I certainly insist, Santic, please speak on the pilot program that we're doing now in order to be able to keep the bush off the road and how we're trying to be able to approach it differently. Because systems that were suitable to this country all along are no longer suitable in the context of a climate crisis. And the standards for drains, wells, all of those things, culverts are no longer suitable as they were before. And that's why we brought in Daniel Best from CDB, who's on secondment. He's been with us for a year and has made a tremendous difference to us starting to refocus and rethink how you change decades of standards that were left at MTW.
Miss Motley, I made a mistake there. What I was about to say is from last year, these were the problems. I am now going on to this year's problems. I am sorry, madam.
Since you want to be funny, I'm going to let you be funny.
No,
but
no,
before
no,
you go,
I'm being funny.
no. But I'm not going to let you, Mr. Seeley, give the impression that, and Public Works can certainly defend themselves, but I'm not going to let you give the impression that no bush was cut for a year, because that's not true.
No, but you
Okay?
heard what you...
Well, I can come to this year's problems with you too, because when she finished speaking, I know you're going to want to speak again. But don't give the impression that no bush was cut for 12 months. Because if it was not cut in the 12 months, tell me what height would it be? Look, the man behind there trying to show you how much taller it would be than you.
Listen. When your minister and the representative passed, as I said before, what I was stating is that these were the problems from last year, not the height of the bush. But what I'm going to tell you is that when the two of those go over there, they will see them up to the high tension wires. That's all I'm saying.
So Grantley, I agree with PM. It's not a case where we have not cut the bush at all. I think in fairness, because of climate change, we're seeing a difference in terms of having to now debush even more than we had to before. And one of the programs that PM would have mentioned earlier is a program for highway beautification. So what we've done is, as you know, we have NCC working within the communities. We've looked at the fact that we have other roads that have been neglected in some cases from time to time. We have divided up a number of the arteries across the country, and instead of us hiring back workers within MTW, what we've sought to do is to encourage small businesses, small entrepreneurs to be able to get involved in being able to hire persons themselves and to be responsible for a particular stretch of road. So you're going to shortly see persons responsible for the same stretch that you're talking about 800 kilometers or so. They're going to be responsible for 800 to 1,000. They're going to be responsible meters, sorry. They're going to be responsible for those areas, and they will have their teams of persons that they will then clean the areas, they will debush, and then in some cases, working alongside NCC, what we plan to do is also do planting of both the cuscus grass and also some shrubbery as well. Okay, as it relates to the road, again, you will see a lot of potholes arising more as a result of the heavy downpours of rain. when we've been going through the Parish Speaks, and people have been complaining genuinely about potholes emerging. And I don't think the problem is as bad as it was, because what we sought to do is not only focus on MTW and the depots doing the pothole patching, but we sought to outsource through the private contractors. And I think you saw recently where people were complimenting on the fact that they saw work being done where they were cutting a hole, and instead of throwing it into the hole, they were actually cleaning it before they actually did it. Well, those are the external contractors that are actually doing that work. But when the rains come heavy as they do, it is difficult to be able to get to all of the areas that are critical. So as I said, we're going to get to it, but we've ramped up the program again in terms of the outsourcing to be able to allow us to do the pothole patching a bit faster.
Thank you, ma'am. But one of the things that I think causing a lot of the problem is that road wasn't built for this type of heavy traffic, which we are getting these oil tankers every morning coming through there. So I grant that, okay? So I'm just outlining that, okay? What I would like to...
Then what I'm suggesting is that I think, and the broader point is not that road. The broader point is heavy duty equipment on the roads of Barbados. I am tired seeing, and I've spoken to MTW, seeing the cement that spill on a roundabout, especially when the road just recently get paved. And there has to be a way. There's a simple principle globally, you know, the polluter pays principle. If you pollute, you must pay. Now the problem is that we don't know which of the companies is the polluter on this one. So therefore you deal with the class of polluter. And if you deal with the class of polluter, then you begin to have an understanding, because they themselves are not paying attention to their consequences, and they're not paying for the consequences either. So I want to use this opportunity to agree with you and to go further and to say that in addition to that particular road, that we are going to have to agree on those roads that are suitable for heavy duty traffic. First thing, because not every road is suitable for heavy duty traffic, as you pointed out. And then secondly, to find a mechanism to pay for the wear and tear of the heavier vehicles, because the heavier vehicles are earning heavier money too. And the heavier money must help contribute to the maintenance of the roads in a way that if they are having a disproportionate impact on the state of the road, then MTW needs to find a way of holding them accountable. And similarly for the concrete, the cement drop-ins, for want of a better phrase.
Right. Well, what I would like to, in your point, is that between Dighton Griffith and Kendall Hill, the road is collapsing on that highway, as well as
collapsing. I can't allow you to say it is collapsing.
Okay, it's dropping into holes.
Right, you said it dropping in a hole, but it is not collapsing. We are well aware of the issues there, and from time to time you see that in terms of the surface of the road, and MTW is actually looking at addressing that. But it's not unsafe, and I don't want you to say it is collapsing, and people when they're leaving here going down the road feeling as though they're going to fall in, right? It is not collapsing, and it is not as urgent as it may appear to the eye. Okay, but it will be addressed.
Right. What I would like you all also to do is on the side of those highways, it doesn't look good with the amount of pallets that are just tossed and left there. Something has to be done in this country. We are just, as the old people, as the young people say, we just looking pop down. Okay? It is really disgraceful.
Agreed.
Okay? Now I will come now to the famous Minister of the Environment, who said that when we see polluters, we should put them on Facebook and all of that. But what I would say, I know there's a school down the road called Shirley Chisholm, and I hear a lot of talk about Shirley Chisholm all the time. And you know what happens in front of Shirley Chisholm? Dump cars. I have even called his office about these dump cars in front there. And we got all types of problems in the educational system, and we can got cars dumped in front of the school. Something has to be done about it. We just playing the fool with it, and it is too many months that I see the vehicles there and nobody isn't doing anything. Huh? And listen, we have a classic example of this pop down. From Bussa roundabout to the Miss Bar roundabout, we are passing State House and the Prime Minister's residence. And along that area is deplorable. We don't want to say so, but I'm telling you, it looks deplorable. That area should be the best example in Barbados, between Bussa and the Anita Bar roundabout. We cannot have that situation where all this wild time been going outside the lower court. And in regards to your official residence, just look up top the wall. It is disgraceful. All the vines hanging over. Which department are you responsible? The NCC?
None.
None?
I'm not NCC, but let me go further. Opposite Ilara Court is no landscape. The plot, no. You talking and I can talk too. Because I agree with 90% of what you say. And anybody here at this table will tell you that every week I come to cabinet and complain about what? Every independence, what do I complain about? So this is not a government problem alone. This is a national condition. And I can talk about it on Saturday when I come back in this hall. Because we have to change how we behave in this country. And the bottom line is that whether it is NCC, and for the most part, NCC does a good job at Ilara Court. So I'm not going to even carry you there at all. They really do. And you can go in there any day or night. As to whether there is anything on a wall coming through the cut rock, I don't know. I haven't looked up there. And if there is, then they got to find a way of dealing with it by shutting down the road, because that is a dangerous corner, and that's probably why it is there. But that's no excuse. You go now, I can bet me money now, right opposite, you can see all the plants right opposite, not even on our side, but on the other side. I know that the Ministry of Housing is investigating the lot next door, because I've asked them to do so, because it is not only a matter of beautification, it's a matter of security as well. So we're on the same page. As it relates to that stretch down, the reason why Santia is telling you about the beautification program and changing how we deal with it so a person is accountable for X kilometers of road and they have people doing it, is because what we have over the years has been reduced to potentially it may not, it could, it couldn't. I'm done with that. And you asked about the UCAL thing earlier. Tell about me and UCAL and TW. Who you think? And I've insisted that it has to come to an end. Because what is happening is that we are then having people tell us this equipment break down and this equipment. I have no problem with paying for equipment that working, but it must be working. So, Mr. Seeley, I suspect that you have an eye for these things and we need it. I have an eye for some of it, but not all. I am saying to you that what this country needs, and I agree with the pop down too, but why is it also pop down? Because half the people are not doing what used to happen when we were young. What happened? That everybody take charge of in front them, behind them, or next to them. Not true? Mercifully, in fact, I think the committee is meeting tomorrow. Before Parliament, the Select Committee, Standing Committee for Social and Environment, is meeting. Dale, what's the name of the legislation? They call it the Bush legislation, but I know that's not the name of it. You understand? The amendment to the Health Services Act. And they're meeting tomorrow to deal with, they've asked for submissions. I don't think there've been any big lot of submissions, but they will deal with what they have and send it back to the House of Assembly, and then it goes to the Senate, and then hopefully by early next year, all who making noise, this has been a long road, Dale will tell you, about 18 months, because you had to meet with the farmers, you had to exclude the people with the cowitch and different other things, and put special arrangements in there. So I will be the happiest person when we can start to find some people, and when people will start to accept responsibility to avoid fines for the property that you own. You own property, it is a right, but it is also an obligation. And if you have that right to the property, you have an obligation not to be a nuisance. to anybody else who is affected by the property.
Thank you. What I would like to ask the minister there is that right in front, Lauderdale King Sandyford Center, there's a sign marked caution road work ahead. There's a little drain that somebody was dealing with for about the last 5 weeks. It is still there, and nobody isn't even moving the sign. And what hurts me is that, as you would say, we got all of those visitors every day from the university who will probably make some pictures of these, I don't know what to call them. And you take these pictures and send all over the world right in front Lauderdale King Sandyford Center. And it doesn't look good. And something should be done about it. That is all my concern is that I think that we are just not doing things, we are just letting the place run. And I am really hurtful to see it. You know, what I wanted to also ask the Minister of the Environment, what has become of the recycle situation with those blue bins? There's one that you got to talk about.
First of all, let me agree with you 100% and state that I would ditto everything I said before about the shame and blame game in terms of us destroying the beauty of our environment. There is an idyllic song I'm sure you're familiar with based on my perceived age of you. And that is Beautiful Barbados by the Merry Men. Now, as much as government is doing, and we are putting our endless efforts in terms of beautifying this country, the onus is of each one of us as Barbadians to ensure that Barbados remain a clean, green, and beautiful place. And what has been happening over the years, I have been here 4 years, and it is an odious exercise for me and my ministry to be cleaning persons' lots, to be removing cars that are put on the side of the road by persons indiscriminately. This can't be the way how Barbadians are supposed to operate. And as much as we are talking about it right here, it's for each of us to get the message to our neighbors. Clean your lot, clean the curtilage of your homes. This is the type of discussions that we need to have across the board, because we will not succeed if government decides to do it alone. So it must be a whole of country approach. That's the first thing. The Prime Minister said that there has been changes to the Health Services Act, the amendments, so that there will be penalties imposed, administrative penalties, because we don't think we should criminalize anybody. But at the same time, I think that it's incumbent on every single Barbadian to have the trust of beauty and cleaning their environments. As simple as that for me. That's the first thing. The churchism issue that you spoke of with the cars, I am very much familiar with that issue. As not only the Minister of Environment, I'm the MP for the area too. And you know that there is a beautiful landscape Shirley Chisholm School. And equally, we have had a number of cars being placed there by persons, mechanics in the area. EPD removed 4 cars on 4 different occasions. Somehow they magically return, or different cars are placed there. I would undertake to ensure that we find the culprit, because there's legislation that can deal with that under both the Road Traffic Act, which speaks to the fact that you should not block any part of the road, and obviously the environment for the health concerns. So that is something I will personally undertake. I can give you that rest assurance. Now with the policy in terms of the recycling, I must say that this year, only earlier this year, we have approved by the level of cabinet the recycle policy and the plan to implement. So I can only give you the rest assurance before we go any further that we are working on the policy, and over the next couple of months, you will see the implementation of that policy so that you can use the blue bins for the purposes that they're designed for. Thank you.
Just let me ask a question.
Yes, please.
What you do with those bottles that you all are drinking the water out of?
That's the same thing. We are encouraging Barbadians like yourself to there's the repository at Bees, and you can take your bottles there. And if you call, even if you call, my understanding is that if you call them, they can come and collect in certain neighborhoods. So that is the interest, and that's the efforts that we are trying to get Barbadians to do.
But do you think that if you to put 5 cents on that, that you would see any of those around the country?
Well, that is something that we'll discuss at the policy level, but I take your point, sir. Thank you.
Wait, last point, because I had about two more, but I'm going to use this as the last point. We had a land tax earlier this year. And if I can recall, the 2003 to 2004, the tax notice was on the 1st of the 9th, 2023. On the 2024 to 2025, the tax notice is the 30th, the 4th, 24. So that tells me that it was only 8 months. So in other words, it would be classified as a rate increase. What do you say, Mr. Strong?
Sorry.
Mr. Strong.
So
listen, no.
Just
I
repeat
got
what you
the
just said
tax
there.
notice,
Uh-huh.
and the demand notice says the 1st of the 9th month, 2023.
Right.
The new
Uh-huh.
one that came this year
Right.
said the 30th, the 4th, 2024.
Correct. Correct. So
No, it can't
so,
be 12 months.
so, sir, land taxes are due on March 31st of every fiscal year. So what we've attempted to do is to make sure that we give people enough time to be able to pay over the course of the year in order to avoid any issues with respect to you being able to pay. Now, what happened in 2023 is that we launched the online portal, and therefore that delayed the issuance of the bill, which would ordinarily have been in May or June.
Okay, good.
But we had to push it back by 3 months until September so that we can get the online process going to make it easier for people to settle the land tax. But the fact that it was issued in September of 2023 meant that you had until March 31st, 2024. The notice that you got this year, you can wait until March 31st next year to settle that, or you can go and pay a piece every month, online or according to your circumstances, therefore making it easier for you to be able to settle.
Right, but what I'm
So it's not in any. You can't look at when the notice came out in September last year and this year
Okay.
and say that is within a 8-month
fine.
period
Okay.
in relation to when it is due. Okay.
Now, what I wanted to know, you all have this customer service for Bra, but there's only one office in Bridgetown, and the next one is in Holetown. In this heavily populated area, including St. Philip and Christchurch.
I can help you with that. We took the decision on Friday that BRA has to have customer service reps outside of Bridge Street and outside of Whole Town.
Good.
Because it came to our attention that they only had customer service reps in those 2 locations. So that was dealt with on Friday, and Ryan, you weren't there, but we gave the instructions to the BRA reps. I forgot her name, Carolyn. Thing to be able to ensure that they split up the customer service reps.
Well, thank you,
Okay.
because I had to go down to Holetown last week.
Yeah.
Because
So
they couldn't get in.
it came to our attention on Friday for the first time, and we took the decision one time
Okay.
because it makes no sense. It's unfair to the other offices that are open.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Ladies and
Seeley.
gentlemen. Have a good night.
You too. And continue to be the informal ombudsman. Who's next?
Blessed good night, Honorable Prime Minister, Cabinet members, personnel behind the scenes and in front, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shirley Aline. I live in Kendall Hill, Christchurch. I have 3 quick issues. Lighting. I had to go and buy 2 solar lights to put on the poles in my vicinity. Because like when I catch the bus from Warrings and I'm getting home late, they always say behind a bush you may find a man. Right. So I buy the lights for all of us in the vicinity out of my pocket. Okay? And I went to Mr. Ford's office, and I spoke to the secretary, and they told me something, Lighton Power may not put a pole, a light. I live in a cul-de-sac there too, so I live in one. And then by my house, I had to put a light like 400 lumens or whatever it is, so that it would shine up for the other people. And then when people park the cars, at least they can still see where they're going, okay? I'm not asking for a refund, by the way. Now, the other issue, they're intertwined. This is the road, and where I live floods. Almost if the rain rate to set up these flood. Now, I say that to say this. There is land on my right, which is above me. Now, I live from the constituency, so I live in the bottom. So we get all the water from Koiman, and all of it comes to me because I do not know how town and country planning allow the developer of the land, the property that some of us purchase. I do not know how town and country planning allow the developer to slope the land where I get the water, the neighbor get the water, and sometimes I go call CBC to get it because I don't have a canoe. I have to buy these boots so that when the rain falls, I can get to work. Next thing is, I need to put on my proper shoes to go to church. I have to step in somebody's bush to get out. My family friend had to go and get a truck to put some debris so that we can get in and out. At my right, there is land that I used to clean. It's not mine. These shoulders can't do it no more. But I and another old lady used to go and clean. He knows the land. We used to go and clean the land. The grass is taller than my house. It floods. Prime Minister, I don't want to tell you about flood. One day I come home, the water to my knee. So you will say, I need to get to work. But how am I going to get to work? If by the outside setup and the rainfall, I can't get out, I can't get in. And then the water is not only water, it is dirty. It is filthy and it smells. So there's this, I think is acres of land undeveloped. So when the water comes, where I live it's lower, so all of it just floods right across to my home, the other neighbor's home. And I even call drainage.
There's a private development?
Yeah, the private developer paved the road.
Right, but didn't do drainage.
But the drainage is to our house.
Right, in other words, he paved the road, but he didn't do the drainage properly.
No,
Right.
and then there's a, I don't know if you call it a well, but something with a hole. And as rainfall, it just fills up.
Obviously is inadequate. So the question is, Adrian, you said you have asked MDW. Go ahead.
Thanks. And I know my good constituent know that I have been down there. We have carried the drainage unit on more than one occasion. Up to yesterday, we happened to visit the area because we are looking to do that whole road under the community road project being led by the Ministry of Transport and Work. So that's one thing I can give you the rest of the assurance on. The road was already approved only yesterday to be part of that road program. So that is a road concern. The drainage division went. They have assured us that they will keep maintaining the cleaning of the drains in that particular area. So that would lessen the amount of flooding you will get for sure, because that is an insurance that we have been given from drainage. And thirdly, as you notice too, my ministry has been responsible for a lot of the debushing in the area up to beside the office. That lot we completely clean. But it's not, as I said before, for government to be doing the cleaning of private lots. The owners now have to be made accountable, and that's what we are doing, along with the Ministry of Health. And you would have seen the environmental health officers out. Up to the last time I checked, there were about 42 persons brought before the court under the Health Services Act for failing to keep their land in a clean state. So these are things that we are implementing. I can come tomorrow. I will guarantee that I will come tomorrow again. Me and my assistants we will come down there tomorrow and see about the drainage issue, but the road is already being looked at in terms of having it resurfaced. So that I can give you tonight.
I would like to ask a question.
Yes, please.
When an area of land is developed and you have a road, is it 10 years this road becomes a public road?
I guess the AG will have to help me with that one.
There's a convention that after 10 years, the government takes over the maintenance of it, but there's no rule of law that says that. In fact, if you think about it, when you buy land in a development, you will generally buy land up to the middle of the road, correct? So you buy up to the middle, the neighbor buys up to the middle. So that's the very reason why it can't be a public road, because you're actually driving over land that you and all of your neighbors own. But
what about the road?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Your lot, if you look at your plot plan, you will see that your plot goes up to the middle of the road. So if you own up to the middle on the left and your neighbor owns at the middle on the right, then it can't be a public road because it is your land. But by convention, after 10 years, the government, and this goes back now for donkey's years, the government has taken over the maintenance of the road. But the truth is, it doesn't belong to government. Public roads are roads that are physically owned by government. It's just that as a social good, we will take over the maintenance of roads in developments after a period of time.
My take is, people got vexed when the Prime Minister said, or whoever it is said that, if people don't know, I'm a property owner. I clean my lot. I will go and clean somebody else's lot because of, whatever. People get vexed because it is said that if they don't clean the land and the government has to clean the land, that it will get put on the property tax and whatnot. I do accounts. I don't see anything wrong with it.
I'm happy to hear that.
I don't see anything wrong with it, because just like how we have the water bill, we have sewage, we have the water, and then we have, I think it's SSA, the sanitation, the pickup, garbage, whatever it is. And I believe that when people do not clean their land, and if it means somebody else has to pay expensive to clean your land, no, I never get back a cent for cleaning the land. I paid years and years and years of cleaning this person's land. I haven't asked for a cent because it was in my best interest, right? So if it means that the government or somebody else has to clean the land, I see nothing wrong with putting it, because when you have the land tax, it did not say it is land tax payment. It comes as a different payment, and honestly, I don't see anything wrong at all. Next thing is, Mr. Ford, when you tell me that the government is going to come and clean the drains, we ain't got no drains. We have a so-called thing with a hole in near a well, and the cat went in the well, and the thing is, we know that it is so full because we actually get out the cat. They put a sheet. We hear the cat crying, the neighbors. They put all kinds of things for the cat to come out here and get out. So when you put the sheet, the cat climb out, so which means that the well is full of debris. Now, I had planned, maybe early next year, I would take my own funds. The Prime Minister didn't give me the increase, but I would take my funds and go and get the well cleaned, because at the end of the day, I have to work. My child has to work, and other people have to work. When the rain falls, I'm not kidding, this is no laughing matter. I'm asthmatic. And the rain, I mean, it is real high. The stench, sometimes they can't stay home.
Shirley, I hear you, and I think we got the point. What I want Sandy to do is to ensure that the drainage unit, just as we're doing Goodland Gardens and Wharton and Dover, that we add down by you in Kendall Hill to what they're looking at. And you have been very passionate about describing. I only want to make one comment. I said it in July in St. Philip. and William, you're in charge of planning. And there has to be, a lot of it I accept is dated, because how old your development is?
The area is quite, let me say from 2013, 11, the houses, that particular development.
So that's the point I'm making. And then regardless of whether it's recent or back in the 70s and 80s, like a lot of the developments in St. Philip, we have been the victim of private developers doing as they like, not complying with conditions. But I don't blame them, I blame town planning.
Country planning, yes.
Because town planning must have an enforcement unit looking specifically at whether developers are truly complying with the conditions that are there. Okay, so I'm with you 150%. But in the interim, I don't want you having to do what is not your responsibility, and MTW will add out by you to the list of those areas that need serious drainage works. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am. What
Thank
about
you.
the lighting?
And the lighting as well. Lighting as well. Although I'm told that you want a light on every pole.
No.
Which may not be.
No, there are two cul-de-sacs.
Okay.
There are two cul-de-sacs, right? I live in one, the other people live in the other one. So what happened is, because where it's developed, the little road that the government may have to do is only 100 meters long.
Yeah, that's
right?
what he said, the small
100
road.
meters
The
long,
small road, yeah.
right? And when you're from there, you cannot see a thing in the road.
I got you.
You cannot see a thing.
So the lighting will be done.
So the lighting is bad.
Yeah,
and
the
sometimes if I have to come home...
You don't have to explain any further.
You understand what I'm saying? So it's not having a light on every pole. I put one up on every pole. But it's not having a light on every pole.
I thank you for the
I
clarification.
able for the boy to scrape me out this year.
Who's next? Let's go this way so you don't have to go out there.
Pleasant night. Pleasant night to each and everyone. I wanted to ask the AG, what do you do with the bad apple?
Name and address.
My name is Colin Roach, Kingston.
Roach.
I wanted to ask the AG what you do with the bad apple, but he's not here. Prime Minister, you said there are some reasonable expectations. You said that we cannot have unreasonable expectations. And you also said that there needs to be a change in the behavior in this country. I have a private instrument. It's a power of attorney for temporary custody, care, and control of a minor. You listening?
I would, because if it's a personal matter,
It's
Roy,
not a personal matter.
So
Let me explain to
it's
you.
a power of attorney for who?
Let me explain. It's not a personal matter.
No problem, but I can give you the chance. But if it's personal,
it's not
then
personal.
we know the rules.
No, it's not personal. The issue that I'm having is that according to the notary publics, there are a number of officers that can notarize documents. And the Supreme Court registrar is one. So this instrument needs signing by a notary public. But the Supreme Court registrar doesn't want to do it. The deputy doesn't want to do it. And the reason that they don't want to do it is because a child is involved. I'm trying to understand from a meeting that I had with Member of Parliament Abrams and the acting Chief Immigration Officer at the time, Ms. Margaret Innes. If there is no law preventing such, why is it that the Supreme Court registrar and the deputies are refusing to sign the instrument? I asked a law firm, I asked individual attorneys, I asked the registrar herself, I asked Member of Parliament Abrams himself if there's any law preventing such. They said no.
But Mr. Roach, you got us at a disadvantage.
Explain.
Because when you present one set of facts without the other side being here to give their side, I can't answer you. And that
Member of Parliament
the Member of Parliament is not a party to the action.
But as minister, I had to come to him.
Right,
We had a meeting.
But that's not the issue.
What is the issue?
The issue is that if you are saying that the Supreme Court registrar and the deputy are refusing to sign something, I'm saying to you that the way for us to deal with it is let us know, let us call a meeting with them and you, and let us see what is the potential resolution. If there is no resolution possible that way, we'll tell you. But what I can't do, and I need you to appreciate it, is that AG is the registrar here. I can't tell you whether the registrar refused to sign it. And Wilfred, you may know some things, but I still insist that in the absence of the registrar and the deputy, you didn't come here to say that the Notaries Public Act needs to be changed to do X, Y, Z. You have come and said that the registrar and the deputy registrar refuse to do X.
Yes.
I am saying to you that the rules of engagement of these town halls will not allow us to make allegations against one party who is not here to defend themselves. So if we were to tell you, go home and perish the thought of anything else, I could understand that'd be wickedness. But that's not what we're telling you. We're telling you that Mr. Morris here writes letters and engages with government departments every single day. If there is an issue, then I can't deal with it in their absence because we don't have the facts. So you have to be patient.
What you just
have
said.
to be patient and allow us therefore to call them to the table and ask them what is the issue. I know that Dale, we passed the new Notaries Public Act earlier this year, didn't we? So I don't know what the issue is there.
Madam Prime Minister, I would like you not to drown me out.
I'm not
and
drowning
listen
you out.
And hear me out.
I
had a
listen to
conversation.
you.
I had
Hold
that,
on, Mr.
I had that conversation with Mr. Morris.
Hold on, but I'm saying to you that what is not, you think that my protecting the natural justice rights of individuals is drowning you out. If you think so, I regret that you think
No,
so.
I'm saying that you're not letting me continue what I'm saying.
Because I'm trying to lay down some parameters. Because
But I understand that.
Hold on, just let me be clear, because this goes out live. This goes out live.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
And the bottom line is that it is not fair to persons if you're going to go down that line to make those allegations without the people having the right to be heard.
Did you not just say, Madam Prime Minister, to contact Mr. Roy Morris? Did you not say that?
To you? That, with all due respect, sir, Mr. Morris is there.
Yes, he is.
You and I don't need a mic for you to speak to Mr. Morris.
But hold on a second.
I'm saying to you that if you're going to go any further in this conversation, you have already put the character and actions of the registrar and the deputy registrar at issue. So that in order for me to make sure that there is no falling off of the guardrails, no defamatory statements, no unfair prejudicial statements, I'm saying, look, come and tell us. Roy will tell the AG, he will tell me. But what I don't want, because you have already
Madam Prime Minister, you're not listening. I told you that I filed a complaint to the office and Mr. Morris called me on it. So what you're asking me to do now, we did already.
And I'm saying to you that if you did, he has not kicked it up to me or the AG.
That's 1 year ago.
But it may still not be kicked up to us, with all due respect.
So the 4-year-old child stays in limbo. It's 1 year, Madam Prime Minister. Come on.
With all due respect, sir, I don't know whether this was a 4-year-old child, this was an adult, I don't know what it is. I am saying to you that the purpose for your right of audience here is not to make an allegation which I cannot defend, or I cannot moderate, or I cannot in any way think. And with all due respect, I am saying to you now that come to Mr. Morris, or if you want, come and write me directly then, and I will have somebody else deal with it.
I will come to Mr.
With all due
Morris.
respect,
I will come to Mr. Morris
and
a second time.
therefore, let us second, third, fourth, or fifth, it does not change. I am saying to you that the registrar and the deputy registrar's character and actions and persona have already been put at the center by you, so that in the absence of them coming and telling us now their side, we run the risk of either having a prejudicial statement, a defamatory statement, or a statement that may well be fine.
I had a meeting and the member of Parliament,
I am telling you that
Abrams,
you can,
is there to represent the
I am
cause.
saying to you that you can do
As a result of that actual problem.
What's his name, sir? What's his name?
Roach.
Mr. Roach, I'm telling you, with all due respect now.
So even though I did what you're saying that I'm supposed to do, I still can't get a hearing? Even though I did what you said? Member of Parliament Strawn, the acting chief immigration officer, everybody was there at the
Mr.
office.
Roach, clearly what you did not resolve the issue. I am saying to you, come off of the mic and let us deal with the issue for you. But I cannot continue to take the chance that you're having put people's character and position on the line, that we can continue to, I don't know where you're going with it. And I'm not going to let you do it on the mic. So I'm saying, come, sir, to the back and let us deal with it. Thank you. Who's next, please?
Good afternoon. I like following up the person who's just riled up the PM. So I would like to say that I'm very proud to be in a country where the government engages with the people. So thank you. And I hope I haven't lost my train of thought.
What's your name, ma'am?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Dr. Dawn Guy-Prasad. Most people call me Dr. Dawn. I live in Enterprise. Why am I here? So I noticed in our documents and our history, we were famous, world famous. In the February 2024 budget proposal, in 2007, we were famous because we were the third highest indebted country in the world. In that entire proposal, I didn't see a lot about cancer control. Okay? One of the other reasons we were famous is in the Barbados National Registry Cancer Report of 2022. We noticed that in 2029, deaths of women in Barbados from breast cancer was the highest in the world. So we became famous for that. And that actually was very disturbing to me, because I belong to a group of women at Cancer Support Services, and I hear the experiences of women dying of breast cancer and being diagnosed as early as the age of 26. And yet, I don't see that we are doing anything about the situation of breast cancer in Barbados. So I know I can speak about cancer in general, but I'm specifically talking about breast cancer because it is a situation. Our ASMR was the highest in the world in 2018 through 2021. That is the data that was reported in the Barbados National Registry. So I want to ask Madam PM, I need you to help teach us how we can live without dying. Death from breast cancer is completely preventable when diagnosed early. And I would like to ask you, and I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but I'm here asking, I think that you can talk to the people of Barbados and the women of Barbados and ask them to get screened as early, ages 35 to 69, because I know that people in Barbados respect you and listen to you.
Thank you. I think all of us know that the Deputy Prime Minister has been an advocate on these matters already, having gone through herself the very difficult experience. I don't only want to talk about breast cancer, about early screening. I want to talk about colon cancer, and I want to talk about prostate cancer, because those three are all preventable if we catch them early. And the reality is that for people who have colon cancer in their families, you are particularly vulnerable. With prostate cancer, there are too many men who are going down as well, just as with breast cancer. And the reality is that we need to develop a culture of wanting early diagnosis to be part and parcel of all that we do. As it relates to the incidence of deaths, you know, I've been in public life now for over 35 years, and I've learned the hard way that countries that have orderly systems of records end up taking more of the blame than those countries that have no orderly systems of records. So think of how many countries in the world that are not reporting, where the incidence of cancer is both higher and the incidence of death is higher.
But we don't want to be like those, Madam PM.
No, we don't want to be, but I also want us to put things in context. Now, against that backdrop, we took a decision, and Mr. Clark, you're here, I don't know if you're in a position to respond, but we took a decision to pull the linear accelerator out from the rest of the equipment that the hospital is buying in order to be able to have that and some lab equipment treated outside of the financing package that was being put together with NCB and the credit unions. I know what I've been told in terms of when it arrives and the capital works that have to be done, but it may sound better coming from you, sir.
Hello, is one working? You hear me? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so the linear accelerator, and you know this, and we've spoken before, the linear accelerator will be coming later on this year and will be brought into working early next year. That's treating cancer, and I think what you're asking for is preventing people needing treatment.
Early screening,
early
diagnosis,
screening.
mammograms,
We know that,
tests,
Mr. Clark,
yes.
but I want us to deal with both.
Yes.
Because I know that the next part after early diagnosis
is the treatment.
Is treatment, and
Yes.
people will want to know. So I want us to address it one time and then.
And to be really clear, the system that we're getting, the linear accelerator that we're getting, is state-of-the-art system. And this will be, you know, a real change for those who've had cancer treatment, that it can actually identify and tackle those cancer tumours much easier and much faster than what we've currently got in the cobalt machine. So the receipt of the linear accelerator, say coming later this year, civil works to be done, installed, and then treatment starting early next year will be a really good start for that. In addition, Prime Minister, we have got in the CapEx mammography machines coming and additional cancer equipment coming in the CapEx funding as well.
That will expand the screening.
That will expand the screening at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. We need to work closely with the Ministry of Health and Wellness to ensure that we're screening at the polyclinics and at the private clinics, so we can get screening at the place that's most convenient to the patient. Because we need to get as many people as possible to be screened. As we all know, it's much cheaper to prevent or to treat early diagnosis than to treat much later down the stream. So we do need to work closely between the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital to ensure that screening is available in as many places as possible.
Okay.
Okay, there's some other things that we can brief you on that we're also doing, but I'm not going to speak about at length now, because we're trying to raise the funding to be able to do a number of trials for pharmaceuticals that we believe can be helpful, but also exceedingly affordable as compared to the other traditional treatments.
Okay, so I want to stay at the step one, which is screening. So, since we know we have the treatment plan coming, would you be amenable to supporting free mammograms for uninsured women in Barbados? uninsured women who have to go to the 4 screening places and pay for mammograms. And I have the costs here on this information sheet.
Okay. The AG is showing me other stuff that has come from the ministry, because the ministry, in fact, is expanding screening for the other areas too. The colonic screening processes, initially at 2 polyclinics, with plans to expand later. You heard that the lawyers are working on the capital package, the capital injection necessary for the hospital, that we've agreed on already, and that will have the additional mammography machines. In addition to that, cervical cancer screening and mammography were both terminated as services at the hospital in 2008, and that is why we are trying to bring them back in. We would have hoped to have done it sooner, but COVID displaced a lot of the plans that we could otherwise have put in place. So all of that screening that you're asking for will take place again in a way that it has not taken place for the last 15 or so years.
And I know you understand, Madam PM, that in the meantime, women are dying from breast cancer. I know you understand that. So I will be back here to have a chat in the future.
I don't think that you would think otherwise, that I understand that. So I'm asking myself why you are saying it.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Arthur Hoyt, and I live over in Adams Castle. This is Mr. Strawn's constituency. I came here tonight with 3 issues. One is Promotech. Thanks. One has to do with Promotech. This is a company that built a building right next to Sheraton Mall. I took some photographs. I sent them to Mr. Strawn's office. I called Mr. Strawn's office a number of times. I called the Minister of Transport and Works. They said they are aware of it. Promotech built their concrete work from the parking lot onto the carriageway in such a way that it blocks water from flowing. So if you've got the curb, they built out beyond the curb. So somebody driving along not being aware of that could hit that extension and cause a real problem. I tried to make Mr. Strawn aware of it. I called, like I said, Ministry of Transport and Works. I have had no reply, no response. The second issue is, and it came up before, but this had to do with overgrown areas on the highway. This has to do, and now in my case, from Dean's Drive, that is Vauxhall Main Road, all the way north, you know what I'm talking about. At least 1/3 of the road is taken up with bush and grass. It's reached the point now where people are putting cars there, abandoning them, and it's just a matter of time before you get an accident, a collision. Some of the cars are now hidden with grass, so somebody passing, thinking it's all grass, is going to run into some abandoned vehicle. And what's happening is the traffic, to avoid Sheraton, the heavy Sheraton traffic, people are coming off Vauxhall Main Road, cutting through Dean's Drive, and cutting across then, increasing the danger. Also at the end of that road, Dean's Drive and Vauxhall Main Road, there's a hedge. I called Mr. Strawn's office. I went to the office. The woman said, I know what you're talking about. I wonder if, sir, Mr. Strawn, if you could enter into some sort of agreement with the owner of that property to allow us or allow government to cut off that hedge because it's dangerous. So the 3 issues there is Promotech building out its concrete work onto the carriageway, the abandoned, there are maybe 20 abandoned vehicles there. Plus the guys do mechanic work in the road. It's a mess. It's a safety hazard all the way up. There are rodents and other vermin, well, vermin including mosquitoes, then there's the danger of being robbed. Well, robbed plus burglarized, I don't know if there's a difference, but you could get robbed and they could burglarize your house. But it's really a bad scene. And I really would appreciate if, Mr. Strawn, you could come and take a walk through and do something about the situation. I remember speaking to you a couple of elections ago, and I told you this. It was at one of those meetings, and I said to you, people are not going to remember how good an economist you were. They remember how good a politician you were. And I think to be a good politician means taking care of your constituents. Well, I can't do anything about the economic part of it. That's your job, your position. But people really remember, well, the Prime Minister here, I keep remembering your grandfather, great politician. I don't know if he was an economist, yeah, that too. But if you remember him, people remember good politicians. They forget what ministry you had. So please, Mr. Strawn, I'm asking you to contact Promotech and ask them to correct that issue there. And please also come and get something done about those abandoned cars, the overgrown lots, because I'm surrounded, really. I'm on the corner of Kingsland Crescent and what's the other thing? Dean's Drive. I'm literally surrounded with bush and grass and river tar and all kinds of things. This is a disgrace. Thank you, sir. I hope you take some measures to bring some redress to the situation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What I can tell you is that EPD is fully aware of the mechanic in the area and the issues as it relates to the abandoned cars. They have moved a number of the cars. They are working with the mechanic, and I will ensure that over the next week or so, by weekend, I have EPD in the area, and we will have a report so I can let Minister Strawn know that we can get some action for you. In terms of the overgrown lot, again, the environmental health officers went to the area. I'm very aware of it, to seek the owners, and this will go back to the conversation we had earlier, so that those owners, because as much as we will take the responsibility now, because it's a health threat, it's a security threat, and we recognize that as a government, we will also ensure that the owners of this property take responsibility and the legislation is there.
Just one follow-up, sir.
There's one other point too, Mr. Hoyt.
Yes,
you said that the hedge was where? Maxwell and where?
It's on the corner of Dean's Drive and Vauxhall Main Road.
Dean's
on
Drive
the
and
right,
Vauxhall.
right.
There's the hedge.
The hedge. If you could just
I heard
cut
you
the
say
hedge.
Maxwell, so that's what had me confused.
I said Maxwell? Vauxhall Main Road. Okay. Are you going to talk to Promotech too? Mr. Strawn then? I didn't hear you.
Hello? Is there? Sorry. So obviously the issue that you've raised, I am assuming that Promotech would have built according to the approved plans according to MTW and town planning. So all I can say is that MTW would have to check.
I talked to MTW and they agreed that it was not right because it impedes the flow of water.
So
one day, I may continue here, sir.
Sure.
One day I actually went into the Promotech building. A man came out and I asked him what. I talked to him. He said that the architect is responsible. I said, but you own the building, right? Yes. But it has to be cut off. We had a problem over at, remember that situation? This is not quite as bad. On the highway going toward the airport. Coverley. And only after there was an incident did somebody take steps to redress the situation. And this is not as pronounced, but it is dangerous. And I'd appreciate somebody speaking to Promotech and having that taken care of.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoyt, thank you for raising it with us, and I give you the assurance that it will be investigated. If it is an encroachment into the road, then MTW needs to take the appropriate action, because in any event, AG, part of the land goes into the road reserve, as you just pointed out to others. So there's really no reason why it can't be dealt with. All right, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good night.
What's the name?
My name is Yvonne Jordan. I live in Vauxhall Christchurch. I have been begging for a street light for the longest time. That has not been placed as yet.
You have the poll number?
I don't know the phone number.
All right, get the poll number, Roy, and please sort out and get it from Ms. Jordan tomorrow. I know that we promised thing earlier, Shirley and Kendall Hill, correct? I just want to make sure about the street lights too. So get the poll number and let's deal with it one time with Light and Power.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you.
My next problem is the bus service. We have to wait 2 and 3 hours in the bus terminal for a bus to St. Patrick's, which is definitely not accommodating for people like me. And the third problem that I am having is a house that was supposed to be refurbished or remodeled or repaired for my daughter after the hurricane that hit us. All I know, she is still waiting to enter that house or to be given the house. I don't understand what is going on with it, but what I can tell you is that the house looks as though it is completed, but it looks as though it needs only the electricity or something doing. So we are waiting.
Right, so what I want you to do is, don't give me her name there, just give William her name so he can check on it, because we don't know if it looks that way. It might be an inspection that they're waiting on, or there may be something still with the contractor. So I don't know, but he can investigate and get it sorted out for you.
Thank you
Okay?
very much.
And thank you. On the bus service, Santia, who's going to speak? Please.
I can deal with she has. Don't worry. I can deal with she. I can deal
Hello,
with she.
good night. Oh, hello, good night.
Good night.
Good night, Yvonne. How are you?
Good night, Gina. How are you?
I am pretty good.
Good.
Yes, please, ma'am. I recognize that you raised the service about St. Patrick's.
Yes.
And being a farmer worker, you're aware from time to time we do have some challenges with the service. You will be pretty aware of it, and I appreciate it. However, I know where you're going. We did recognize we had a problem, especially in August or so on, and we raised it in a number of the other speaks, whereby we had a number of buses out. We were doing a lot of inspections in August, and then we had some challenges with other units, and we have a program in place. I can tell you that there has been some improvement in the service. It's not 100% even, but it's a little better. We're still having, based on our numbers, and we're using our trackers and trying to make sure we do better and be targeted and set parameters for ourselves. So I can tell you it isn't 100. Between 3 and 4, I'm still having a challenge, and sometimes in the morning at 7. But I will listen to you in the area you're having and add it to where we are going to get to. And not 100 even on.
Every hour on the hour.
Yes, please.
We are not getting a service to St. Patrick's. Sometimes 2-3 hours. We have to wait.
I'm not
for a
denying
bus.
that. I started with saying I know the service has not been perfect. And I was using perfect liberally because you know me and I know you. You understand? But I have been saying that as it has been highlighted, we have been working on St. Patrick's. I know up to recently, that's why I went to August. I can't tell you that there weren't some times in the day we did have an extended wait. But what I can say, and I can promise to you, and you know how to find me, you know how to find me, we will work on it together. After this session, you can give me the other areas. I have some highlighted that we know we have to improve on, and I can work with you, and you can call me and let me know if I'm meeting what I said. Okay?
All right.
Once you give me that, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just to add to that as well, Gina, the fact that we're getting another 30 buses coming next year, because that's a donation that Prime Minister would have negotiated with the People's Republic of China. So that will add 30 electric buses to the existing fleet as well, which will help us considerably to be able to address not just what is said in this Parish Speaks, but in a number of the others as well related to bus shortages.
Good evening, everyone. Madam Prime Minister. My name is Sanjay Graham Haynes. I live in the Wharton area around the Salvation Army. Yes, thank you. Okay, my name is Sanjay Graham Haynes. I live in Wharton Terrace, just around the Salvation Army. But my main concern is like on the main road coming from Water Street. You don't have no bus shelters in the area. And I find a lot of elderly people, there's assembly by those bus shelters, by those bus stops every morning. But the one there by the Salvation Army, they shelter across the road just to get shelter. And sometimes they need crossing the road, and that area is a very busy area. So my concern is mostly about the elderly there by that bus stop. And I think they have one bus shelter just before you get to the Dayton Griffith, and they don't have any by Dayton Griffith School. So my main concern is the bus shelters in the area from the Salvation Army, right? And we have to look out for the elderly. We don't want anything to happen to them. Ain't easy crossing the road and those traffic, because traffic come down there, ain't easy waiting for a bus. So the bus step long from St. Patrick's, from Mangrove. And those elderly people, they stay long hours. Sometimes they want to sit down, you know, it's just cool out. But we have to concern about the elderly in the area. And Mr. Swan, I don't know if you ever drive through the area, if you ever notice the same elderly people that you across from the, right, sheltering, because there's no bus shelters. Thank you.
The shelters. Madam, traditionally a lot of shelters in Barbados have come about because it was sponsored. I've said that we cannot wait for sponsorship for things like that. And therefore, I've asked that UDC, RDC is both of them are being merged into the National Development Commission, and those kinds of bus shelters across the island, they can work with Transport Board and MTW and make sure that those things are corrected. I think you'll realize that even moving to how we want to keep the roads clean from bush, we're trying to change all the systems that existed for 40, 50, 60 years because they're not working for us. And when you change systems, the most resistant to change tends to be who? Who? People. You understand? So that's what we're working through in a lot of instances in changing these systems. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Eugene Green. I live at number 2 Ashby Lane in Lodge Road. I want to talk about that number, the citizen hotline number. When that number was first in place, I called that number for getting them to clean a manhole next to a well. And up to now, nobody showed up and nobody called me. And that hole needs cleaning. Second, I want to know the people that fix the roads, how they're going to fix a pothole with a shovel, just a shovel, because that does not work. They put some blacktop in the hole, they take the shovel and hit it twice and they're gone. That doesn't work, because as soon as 2 cars pass, the hole is back there. Number 3, there's a standpipe in Lodge Road. It's at the entrance of Plum Grove. And on the opposite side of the road, you cannot pass there when it rains. The water came down from up by Evelyn and cut off the whole side of the road. Something have to be done because somebody can lose their life. It could be me. And I can't run. I'm 75 years old and I can't run. So something have to be done. I'm not the only person that talk about that, because some person told me they went to Mr. Strong and told him about it.
Thank you, ma'am. I just wanted to make a general comment to what you're saying, because I think what keeps coming up all the time is the lack of standards that we are seeing applied across the board. You know, we've been working on standards to build roads, but what I've recognized within the depots of MTW in particular, and I think it's probably housing, NCC, all the others, we've forgotten a lot of the basic standards. So when you talk about throwing using the shovel and throwing the asphalt into the hole, I have personally had to stand up and actually say to workers, you think this is the right way to do things? Because it is clear to me, and I'm sure to most Barbadians when they see things like that, that that's not the right way. That's why we also said we are going to look at the standards internally. So even things like debushing, how high a hedge is supposed to be, how, say for instance, in the area of a bus stop, you know, making sure that the area is actually properly cultivated so that you don't have people, especially women, who are going to the bus stop being afraid to be able to walk alongside the roads. We have forgotten standards, and while we do all the big things, we've asked within MTW for the depots to look at the internal standards so that we can get back to where people like yourself and others are accustomed to. But if sometimes you don't have the supervision, people do as they like.
True, somebody needs to police these people.
Precisely, and we've been trying to strengthen the supervision within the depots themselves and certainly across MTW. That is a challenge, but I think we are working towards getting it there. But it's not easy because, as Prime Minister said earlier, it is a culture change that we are trying to accomplish. People are accustomed doing it however they want to do it, and there's no accountability. And the truth is, when we come to each of the parish speaks, we hear repeatedly that there is a clear lack of standards and an appreciation for how people should really be doing things as well. So I take your point and just want to assure you that we recognize it, and we are actually working towards developing those standard operating procedures that not just MTW can follow, but anybody who is employed by MTW, that they will also have to follow certain standards as well. All right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Good night.
Ministers, I was going to start by saying Prime Minister, but Prime Minister has gone for the moment. Ministers and possible future representative, Dr. Monroe Knight. Raising a, sorry? David Fenty from Hythe Gardens, not far from here. Fenty. Really, this is a follow-up to letters and correspondence that has gone out from our community to the ministry, to the Prime Minister's office as well, and to conversations that I've had with Dr. Monroe Knight as the possible future representative of the area, we hope. And we're trying to follow up and find out what's happened since the letter that was sent to the Prime Minister's office on in March this year, to which the Prime Minister responded in mid-March to the drainage unit at Mr. Yearwood at the drainage unit at South Point. So we're just trying to, obviously the hurricane season came in, it was a bit of a shock how Beryl rolled through, and our community was jarred by it because we have a drainage issue which is ongoing for many years, and the new development which is being planned for Blue Bench, which would have been approved by Dr. Duguid's department, concerns us. And it concerns us because our natural outflow from Hythe, which has very poor drainage, is onto that land, a 56-unit development, 5 stories high is planned. I know at least there's one engineer in the room, and the possibility of the outflow from our development across that land is probably going to be curtailed if proper planning procedures are carried out by that development. The issue there is that or natural drainage, which is within our community, is inadequate. And there are very big problems, not only for the residents who live in the lower section of the land, like me, but in the upper section of the land, because we've had instances where flooding has taken place within half hour, and where rain persists for an hour or two, we've had levels reach 3 or 4 feet on neighbors' walls. I think I actually tried to point that out to you, Dr. Monroe, and that is a bit jarring, because on the low-lying side, it means that the lower levels of persons' houses would be flooded, and the persons on the upper section of the development would have no access to their homes until the water drains off. Hello, Prime Minister. I'm good. And so we're really just looking for a follow-up to this scenario. We've not heard anything from Mr. Yearwood at South Point since the Prime Minister sent her correspondence to Mr. Yearwood last March. And I'm not the normal point person. That's Anna Michelle Black, Hashim's sister-in-law, is the normal point person, but unfortunately she's not here tonight, but she's watching online. And I'm here trying to represent our community to try to find out what's happening. That's my first of 2 points.
Thank you, Mr. Fenty. I'm aware of the correspondence that would have come in. Just to say, you're referencing Mr. Yearwood. Mr. Yearwood is no longer the head of drainage.
Okay.
It's actually now Mr. Bryce, who unfortunately couldn't be here this afternoon. But what we would have done is we would have referred it to him once he took over, and I've asked him to do an assessment of the area. But the truth of the matter is, and I've said to the senior minister, that this issue keeps coming up, where obviously we are approving developments. Drainage has to comment when the approval is also provided. And I would think that some of these considerations would have to be made at the time when the approval is also given. There are obviously times where the certificate of compliance is issued, and surely there may be some conditions that may or may not be complied with. And I think that is something that certainly from planning's perspective, they have to tighten, because as PM said earlier, we are finding in the drainage unit that many of those private developers that we are ending up as government having to now correct a lot of the problems in relation to drainage in those communities. So I think in our eagerness to approve, planning department certainly has to pay greater attention to the impact on the wider community, because all of the areas that we're doing in Christchurch, from down to Trent in St. James, and even in Ashdean Village in St. Michael, all of them are areas where we have had some similar issues across the country. And even in St. Philip, Atlantic Park, that is another one that was a private development where we continue to have to now constantly correct the issues that are in those areas. So as I said, it's receiving attention, and I hope we can be able to convey to you very shortly what the assessment has revealed and what works we'll be able to do.
Thank you on that.
Okay.
Just for clarity though, that development is not yet being built, but when it is built, the severity of the possible impact is great. For the moment, there is none. So, to Minister,
but they would, my point is that they would have applied for planning permission to build out that development that you're speaking about.
Yes, of course.
And I'm just saying that we have to pay more attention, because this is becoming now a constant problem with the drainage unit, okay? And wider government, okay?
Okay, so that point one of two. And point number two is, I've heard of the proposed legislation with respect to PSVs. You nearly get killed on the road. Anyone in here who drives will sympathize with me, including all those sitting at the high table probably. I've lost all my hair now, like a couple of the ministers up front. I'm sure some of that has to do with the fact that PSVs scare the living daylights and all the hair off my head. And we've heard it for so many years. I'm sympathetic to the job you're trying to do, Mr. AG, and trying to walk a fine line and yet protect people's livelihoods and rights. But I feel like I have rights too. And of the PSVs on the road, I know there's always the disclaimer that there are some good ones and there are a few bad apples. From my perspective, driving on the road, there are a lot of bad apples and one or two few good ones, right? So I really would love to hear a conclusion to the PSV saga. I had a nice little statement I would tell folks. Do the 3 strikes rule. After the third one, the only thing you could drive after that is a bicycle or a donkey cart. Or a pan cart. Yeah, pan cart would, I'm not doing that. So I'm very much interested in where this legislation goes and how it impacts persons who usually respond to financial threats more so than anything else. I know of persons who have given up very lucrative jobs because with big companies because they made more off of their PSVs. I know that one person very personally who gave up a big job because they were making more money from their PSVs. So it is a lucrative business. Hit them in the pocket, please. Have them not turn a blind eye to their drivers. I was at the scene of an accident with a cousin one night, and it was a hired car company, and that particular individual also owned minibuses and lamented that the accident was curtailing the passage of their PSVs to make them more money, irrespective of the fact that persons may or may not have been injured. There were no injuries, but that was their main concern. I take a little offense to that. So please, get the legislation started so the PSVs would follow the same rules that the rest of us follow. I thank you for that. Tell me if that something is going to happen.
Yeah,
I really would love to know.
So thank you, Mr. Fenty. And I think just the same way that PM feels about Bush, I feel the same way about the PSVs, and so do all of my cabinet colleagues. We would have approved the regulations in relation to the PSV sector. When we started to do the sensitization, we met with the very first meeting was with the stakeholders, and these are all persons who would have inputted prior to the regulations being approved by cabinet. But we went back to them with a view to being able to say, this is how we're going to roll this out, and we want particularly the associations to have a further input in the final regulations that have been approved by cabinet. When we held that meeting, a few things came out of that meeting, and sometimes we consult so much that it requires us to also reflect and to make some changes as well. And in that meeting, one of the things two things were highlighted that were major in terms of us wanting to make a quick amendment to the regulations. One of them was that there was a provision for mandatory vehicle tracking devices that needed to be installed in the vehicles, so that, for instance, you could obviously track, an owner, for instance, could also track where their vehicle was going, as well as the insurance company, but also it would allow the transport authority to have the authority to be able to be vigilant in terms of whether vehicles were going off-route, for instance, okay? Now, what we recognized, obviously, with making it mandatory is that the provision that existed would have placed the oversight on the transport authority. And in its current form, the transport authority doesn't necessarily have that type of structure in place. So we would not have been able to enforce it right away. So that's one. The second thing that we recognize is that there is technology out there that already exists within the insurance industry, where in some situations the insurance companies insist that the operator, the owners of the vehicles, actually install a mandatory vehicle tracking device. So having recognized that it already exists and that there is a format for this that takes place, that operators and owners are accustomed to having mandatory vehicle tracking devices in the vehicle, we said what we would do is make a quick amendment to the regulations, pull out that provision, and have a separate regulation that deals with that. So rather than Transport Authority being responsible for the oversight, what we are seeking now to do by way of the separate regulation is to ensure that we set the standard for what a mandatory vehicle tracking device must be in the vehicle and what it must look like. That we have access to the information where we get complaints from the general public about specific offenses, that we are clear that we're not trying to peek behind nobody to see where they are going off duty, but we have a responsibility to the public if we give you a license to make sure that we are fully appreciating exactly where you go. Because every parish speaks, we've heard people saying the vehicles are going off route, or they have not completed a route, or the little old lady at the corner was not able to get the vehicle to take her where she intended it for her to go. So we don't want to peek behind anybody when they are off duty. But what we want is a mechanism whereby if we are getting complaints about a particular vehicle going off route, we can request that information by way of a report. So we have to make those minor changes, and AG and I have been working very closely to be able to bring that to fruition. The second major change was, I think many of you would remember, I certainly do because my family used to have vehicles as well, ZR vehicles. And there was a time when you used to be able to take the stereo and lift it out of the vehicle, right? Y'all remember that, right? And so the provision actually spoke to that time where you could ask the owners of the vehicle to remove their devices. Now, as you know, many of the vehicles nowadays actually come with everything integrated. So from the perspective of, we don't want to pass bad law and then have people say, oh, well, this particular provision is not enforceable when we know that we have an issue with the loud music and also vulgar and offensive music as well. So based on the representations that were made, we took a decision, let's pull that particular provision. What I think the society wants is that a driver is also not distracted, and that obviously distraction means having the cell phone with music playing. It means loud music in the vehicle. It also means having any device that is going to distract your driver. So we've made that other provision to the legislation, and those were some of the key things that we had to change. Obviously, we'll always have owners who believe that we're not to make them responsible for the public. But my view is that, many of the persons who own vehicles do not drive in those vehicles, do not transport any person. And we have a responsibility as government to make sure that people are safe as well. So owners also have to have responsibilities in relation to what drivers do as well once they are provided with that permit. And I think that I've said to them, you can keep as much noise as you want in terms of the position that we've taken, but I think the public is calling for accountability on the part of the owners of vehicles as well. So we've said you can't hire somebody who you know is constantly breaching the law. And you cannot just ignore it and say, well, there's a shortage of drivers and therefore we have to hire who is available. We are simply saying to you, we will train the persons, we will do the certified training. We're working with Barbados Community College to roll out the certified training for the conductors and the drivers of the vehicles. But we are also saying to the owners, you have a responsibility as well. So I assure you, we are tightening it. There are 21, I think, iterations of this particular set of regulations over the years. And I think this is the closest now that we have actually gotten to having something that, and I won't say it's watertight, because there will still be modifications that have to be made. But what I will not do is hold up the regulations any further when the key things that are in there in terms of behavior of the drivers and all of the concerns that the public have can allow the regulations to work for us right away. So I've said to the stakeholders, we'll keep meeting with them. If there are changes to be made, if things don't make sense, we're going to change them. But what I cannot do is hold back and allow people, as we saw down Calamarock, driving on the wrong side of the road, endangering lives of the persons in the vehicle and others, and we don't have regulations that the Transport Authority can enforce. Okay, so I hope that's answered your question.
It does, and as you've had to put up a fence in Oistins because someone decided the beach was a good place to drive to get ahead of traffic.
Yeah, and I want to thank everyone for their patience, because the public has worn out all patience on this issue. And this government, you heard Santia say 21 iterations, because we have gone over and over backwards to listen and to engage and to take on when things are reasonable. But there's a point when there has to be liftoff. William will tell you that our first meeting with the owners on this thing, so this has been a lengthy process. In fairness, COVID took 2.5 years out of it completely. And of course, during COVID, you had the density issues to also take into consideration. But I truly hope that everyone understands that first and foremost, a weapon, a vehicle is a weapon if used inappropriately. And it will cause people's lives or limbs, as has happened in the past. So thank you for your reflection, but Santia, thank you for the continued engagement. It will be at Cabinet tomorrow again, the regulations, and God spare life. And without prejudice to the determination of Cabinet, hopefully we will see progress.
Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Hello, good night. I am number 16. Let me begin by saying my MP is probably wondering, well, why is she here? I've never heard any complaints or anything. In fact, the reason I'm number 16 is because I delayed, because this is not so much a Christchurch issue.
Ma'am, what's her name?
Nicole Codrington, 156 Regency Park, Christchurch. This is more to deal with, I heard the Prime Minister earlier telling one of the speakers that she can speak to policy and systematic issues. And this is a policy and systematic issue within the teaching service. I have been a teacher for the last 25 years. If I remove my wig, you will see all the gray hair, which is testament to that. Yes. My issue with is basically some practices that have been happening, like I said, for the last 25 years or so. I remember I was hired by Mr. Farley. He was the then Minister of Education. So you see how far back or how old I really am. And the issue is because of the way teachers are, I don't want to say transferred, but assigned to schools. Let me use a most recent example. During COVID, I would have been reassigned to a new school. So as far as everyone at that school is concerned, I am a new teacher. Therefore, you're treated as a new teacher. You know, come, right? And that happens to all teachers in the service. And even though we are under the PAD, Public Administration Division, I know every year the name, our ministries change every time the government change. But I think PAD, the Public Administration Division, has all of our documents, have all of our qualifications and so on, but yet every single time is like you are a new person, you are a newbie, so there's no continuity. If my birthday is tomorrow, I'm going to get a card or something from my optician, Harcourt Carter, but you never get anything from the Ministry of Education. There's no 5-year service awards, 10, 15, 20, because there is no continuity. My major issue, however, is with increments and teacher qualifications. Now, in 2018, I would have been following elections and so on very closely, and that is when I first heard the term master teacher from our Honorable Prime Minister. At that time in 2018, I would have been the holder of a Bachelor of Education, Curriculum Theory, Planning and Practice, a Bachelor of Education, Literatures in English, a Diploma in Education from Urdiston and the University of the West Indies in Primary Education with distinction and honors. But here the Prime Minister is speaking about, and don't care how you call or ask, nobody could define or say what is a master teacher. Anyway, I, with my smart self, say, okay, I'm going to go back to UWI and get a master's degree, which I did. I did because I have a love for testing and assessment and starting my first boss, Mr. Morris, starting as a journalist at age 16. I combined my two passions of writing and teaching and so on, and I have a love for textbooks and testing and test construction. So I did a master's in testing, measurement, and evaluation. In April of this year, nothing happened with the master teacher thing. Don't care how you call, nobody could tell you what is a master teacher. Elections came around again, and it was again a topic. In April of this year, and I was trying to come before my phone died. It's there. Okay. In April of this year, I had to take off my glasses to see. Yeah. An ad actually came out April 18th, 2024. Details regarding the vacant temporary post of master teacher, primary schools, Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, reference number 2/73/07. And I was like, oh, finally. Qualifications: a degree and a certificate or diploma or associate degree in education, not less 10 years experience as a teacher. And then it was about a 20-page document that went on to list all the things needed. But then you saw salary scale S9. $79,118.74 fixed. No, that sounds like a really big figure, right? But it isn't. And then, so this salary scale, when I look, I didn't see it before, because teachers would have ended at Z, because I'm at the top of my scale for Z. And then you would have had S8. So here we have now S9, which means it was, and I would have to be corrected if I'm wrong, created for this. But then most salary scales have at least 3, where you start and then based on your performance, you go up and you go up. But here it is, this is saying fixed. When the Prime Minister would have first spoken about the master teacher, the conversation went along the lines of not losing valuable teachers from the classroom who want to take other posts because they want to be paid better or receive a better salary and so on. So then I found it very strange then that the duties of this master teacher, to me, and this is just my opinion, seems to be that of a diluted or watered down education officer, because the duties that you're being asked to perform are taking you out of the classroom. Try to find it. Hold on. I'm not going to read like the whole thing, but basically it wasn't the vision that the Prime Minister initially said. Because you're being taken out of the classroom, and basically, to me, the duties are repeating what education officers currently do. However, without the allowances and without the salary of the education officer. And then at the back of it, you're dealing with teachers, and vacation is 42 days vacation leave. Now, teachers, we all know teachers have, a very hard and difficult, stressful job, and we need our 12 weeks vacation. So here you are asking us to apply for this post of master teacher, but we are being reduced to 42 days vacation. When you calculate the salary, it is just about, probably about $400 or $500 more a month, which does not even add back up then to a month's salary, number one. Number two, it certainly does not cover all of that vacation time that you're now out of, right? Anyway, myself and a number of teachers, we would have still responded to the application, to the advertisement. And this is now October. Oh. You were waiting patiently? Okay, ma'am.
Because I'm not satisfied with a lot of what you have just said, the Minister of Education will tell you that as recent as last week, I said to her, the Teachers Service Commission is going to deal with these things, not the General Services Commission. Because for the very reasons that you pointed out, there are a number of things that without a peculiar knowledge to education, or of education rather, you're not in a position to get this right. Same thing is going to happen with the health sector. They're going to have to tell us how they're dealing with the specialist nurses and the different other things that we're trying to be able to do to put these. You're breaking new ground. The Teachers Service Commission is actually before me now. And what I can share with you, where my head is already, that we're going to appoint it, but it will not become operational in terms of matters until January. That's what I told you last week, right? So that will be put in place. But I've had to do it that way because I'm not satisfied that what was coming was doing the job. So hold tight. The Teacher Service Commission will be established in the next few weeks. In fact, that is being done. We're just looking at the appointment of persons, which will require consultation also with the opposition. But we want them to be operational come January, which is what? When you take out the 2 weeks for Christmas, you're really only talking about 6 weeks, 7 weeks left to do the work that we have to do. Okay? And that then hopefully will bring them in play by the time they do the interviews and everything, that they bring them in play for the next academic year. I can say to you that I've already approved as well the creation of a substantial number of new education officers, because the education officer profile has remained the same for decades in spite of the different needs of the system to be able to allow us to respond more effectively. As it relates to the master teachers, I assume, will also have a responsibility for helping to lift the standard of other teachers within a particular zone or a particular grouping, but all of those are things not for us as politicians to decide, but for the educators to decide.
If I could add then one more thing for that commission to consider is, why can't teachers receive increments for their master degrees?
Well, this goes back.
That would solve the whole issue, really.
This goes back to another issue that is currently before us in the last few weeks. That in 1982, I'm told by the Director of Finance that the NUPW made a case for stopping increments from being selective and putting it across the board. And it therefore meant that increments that people would have received for good performance, punctuality, degrees, all of those things were all now lumped together. I don't know enough about it. I've asked for paper on it. But what I do know is that you can't, while you may want to make sure everybody has access to a decent wage, you can't then treat everybody as the same when you have gone and invested, improved your skills, you come to work on time, You do all the things you're supposed to do, and the next person ain't coming to work on time, ain't doing the same things, and both of you getting the same increment. So I ain't gonna be wrong with that. So I've said, look, this was done when I was in Lower 6, and like you, I got enough gray hair. So I left Lower 6 long time ago. But it means now that in almost every instance, we are going back and trying to restructure or reconnect or to do things differently. And I've heard not just, it's not an issue for teachers alone, it's an issue across the entire public service with respect to reward and obviously sanctions, so that we change the equation of how we motivate people to work and to be accountable for the time and job that they have. As it relates to the grading, I will only tell you that the entire system now is being subject to a regrading. And in fact, all of the permanent secretaries and all of the ministers met, it was 2 Wednesdays ago, where we went through with the University of the West Indies, who is doing the regrading, those things that we want to measure and reward. And one of the things that we've also said, some water for the lady, please. Somebody get a bottle of water for the lady, thank you. We've also said that there are things that we have not traditionally valued, ma'am. Bless you, William. That we need to. So we don't value innovation. We don't value creativity. But yet, in truth and in fact, if you're not exercising discretion, if you're not thinking outside of the box, if you're not doing a lot of these things, you can't survive in today's world, because you've got to have street sense as well as book sense. But when we use that phrase street sense, what we're really talking about is what? That people are being innovative and resilient more often than not. But our system doesn't capture it, nor does it reward it. So all of those are things that we are doing now. We've asked the university to finish the exercise within a year. Why? Teachers, nurses, police, let's go through the whole gamut of things where we are not competitive. And unless we become competitive in these areas, what happens to the state? Everything starts to fall through. So I can only say to you that you have a sympathetic ear with me. But I know enough to know that we need the systems and structures in there to help us execute it. And the Teachers Service Commission, I wanted to see when I was Minister of Education, and I was Minister before Reggie. So that there how long it was. I have every confidence now, because it is before me now, that that commission will not only be established, but it is being populated so that it is functional from the beginning of January. And then let it do its heavy lifting with respect to the master teachers. That's fair?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
One more issue regarding teaching. Let's just say, my God, I don't know. The Ministry of Education almost every year partners with a university or college from overseas and so on. In 2021, we would have partnered with a university. I'm not going to call the name but anyway, teachers were engaged in a year-long course of study with this university, meaning that we did assignments, we did projects, and all of that. And like I said, for one whole full year. And then at the end of that course, we were issued with credits for that university and a certificate of participation. I think it is extremely unfair to make anybody engage in a course of study for an entire year. Instructional learning design for the distance and digital education. And because it was during COVID, everybody would have said, you know, oh, we really want, this is something you want to be qualified in or certified in. And then we did all of that work, all those assignments, all those projects. And when we were told that the certificates were ready, all of them, even people that dropped out of the course, certificate of participation. This is of no value whatsoever.
I would have to get it investigated. I can't tell you A, B, C, D, or E. So we'll investigate it for you. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
You will give Roy a copy of it so that we can get to the bottom of it. But I agree with you that if you're going to hold people's time for that length of time, it can't be to give them a certificate of participation, that there has to be a assessment of competence. So, thank you.
I had tabled another issue, but I will not go into it at this time.
But
I, however, would ask your indulgence, ma'am, if I could speak with the AG, please.
You don't need my permission to talk to the gentleman opposite you.
I did say my name was Nicole Codrington, sister of Donovan Codrington, Yashiro Codrington, Cassandra Codrington.
And all I'm saying is you don't need my permission.
So I don't want to mention it. Because you told him to speak to the other people and he went. So I just wanted.
And he's smiling already with you, so I don't know why. Ladies, I'm told that your issues are personal, so come and talk with me now. Okay? Yeah, off mic. Okay. I understand your issues are personal. I'm told that there's one last person, although the name was not on the list, but we will entertain you since it is, it's 10 o'clock. And the public servants, but we have already stated that we shut it at 10.
I am not Jeff. No? 19.
I'm 18.
Oh, you go ahead.
So when you finish the Love Fest, remember it's 10 o'clock.
No, but Jeffrey can wait.
Thank you.
It is the time for me to start by saying good evening to you, Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, AG's Minister, the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House. I saw Senior Minister Simmons leave. I see Minister McConney. I want to also say good evening to my fellow public officers who are all over the hall. We are taught as children that we must always give thanks for everything that we receive. And I want to start this evening by thanking the Deputy Prime Minister for keeping her promise that November last year she would have started to repair or do as much as she can with the roads across the island. That has been a fantastic job. And my colleagues really need to be recognized for it. It was not an easy task. They still continue at it, but I'm being insular because I'm specifically speaking about Highway 7. Now, there are things that are in our control, and I know that often the Deputy Prime Minister has a meeting with the utility companies to try and bring some order to the work that has been done. But I am extremely concerned that the National Petroleum Corporation, and not the utility for which I have responsibility, continues to do its work and then leave the roads in a terrible state. The roads that have just been mill and paved. Now, I also have to recognize in Dover, just between Sapphire and Dover Beach, across the road from Time Out, there has been a gap in the road, and I really have to recognize Mug, or Aichard as you call him, the coconut vendor who's there, who in his own way has tried to fill the hole with the old coconut husk. He continues to do it. The hole is getting bigger, it is getting deeper, and no one has sought to come and fill that hole. So you have a lot of cars shunning that hole, driving on to other cars on the other side of the road. It really needs to be addressed. And then wherever you are driving up and down this highway, you have NPC working and they're just not doing what they should in terms of filling the holes that they have left in the road. And it is unacceptable. After we put the pressure on the DPM and her ministry to do this work, and they have responded, now to have the utility companies come and just dig up the roads and really make it impassable in some instances. So we need to address that. I listened to a neighbor in Dover. She had the concerns raised about things that were happening with the Sandals company. She also spoke about the drainage, and you responded in kind about what we're looking to do vis-a-vis drainage in Dover. I'm happy to hear the name of Dover on your lips. But I'm not too worried about that, because my minister, that Rose, is there, so she will make sure that the right things happen. We can do right by you, and you can do right by us. So my concern, though, goes back to a matter I raised last year about the traffic flow. It hasn't gotten any better, and I need to hear from my colleagues now. What are you doing with respect to the study you said you were going to do to look at changing that traffic in the rush hour period in the mornings, Monday to Friday? It is getting bad. I'm sorry?
Talking about
Yes,
St.
yes.
Lawrence Gap.
Yes, please.
Okay. Who's here from MTW?
I don't think anybody can answer directly from MTW, but what I can say is obviously that while you have raised it, truthfully, we have spent a lot of time on roads and fixing roads, as you have said. So not to say that it is down the totem pole, but in all fairness, it hasn't been given the priority that trying to deal with the issues that people were facing with potholes and drainage and open wells has obviously had to be prioritized to do. So I will ask the current CTO, also, you know, around the same time, we would have lost the former CTO as well. So MTW has had a couple of shocks internally as well that we've been working through. So I will ask the current CTO to take a look at it now that he's holding that position. All right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
I also want to speak about something that I have heard other persons from Christchurch speak about this evening, and I constantly hear it. It's all across the island. I am happy to see that we are clearing drains, but don't take the silt out of the drains and put it on the pavement, and now you have grass as tall as I am growing out of the silt. Hello? In days of old, and I'm not that old, there used to be a person with a donkey cart who would either have barb black, as I call it, in the donkey cart, or who would come by and they would have somebody with a shovel who would throw that silt that was just taken out of the drain into the back of the donkey cart, and off they would trot. But you cannot, for over 9 months, I have watched this for 9 straight months, have silt on the pavement along my highway.
I thought you were going to say 19 years, because it's
No.
not just the silt, it is the bush. And the
Yes.
bagging of the bush, and you're lucky if it's bagged, because then it won't blow. But there are also times when it is not bagged. And look, we have had to deal with some big issues and some small issues. But this is one of them, that grass don't grow out of concrete, it's grow to silt. So if you don't want grass to grow on the side of the road, what does it mean? get rid of the silt, get rid of the thing. We ordered, and I asked you to order some street sweepers, but separate from that, the reality is it is too simple. It is a simple logistics exercise. I am now at the stage where I'm going to call the chief of staff of the Barbados Defense Force and tell him, see if you can solve this problem for me that the civilian aspect of government has not solved, because it is just too simple. You got grass there, you got grass there, you got grass there. Make sure the morning before you go and cut that you know you're cutting this road, and that by 3 o'clock somebody has to be coming, because it can't take 8 hours to collect the grass that it take to cut. So you're going to collect it in 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever, you carry it along to where you're going. So I am fully with you. I'm sorry that we are still talking about this in the third decade of the 21st century, but clearly it has eluded all of the great things that we've been able to achieve as a nation. And if we can get this right, then I will feel confident that the small things that make a difference in the lives of ordinary people in communities. But the corresponding part of that is also that in communities, people need to also help to take care of what is in front of them, behind them, and next to them. And if we do the two together, then Barbados would be great. My problem is that sometimes people come to this country and tell us how wonderfully clean it. Look where Mr. Seeley is. I meant to tell him that up to this week, the former Prime Minister of Maldives, who is the Secretary General of the Climate Vulnerable Forum, has come out and said to us, how wonderful Barbados look. They say don't talk too loud because we're trying to tell people that they look wonderful enough. You understand? So while we may be better than others, we know we are not good enough, and we need to get it clean. And I've spoken about it almost every Independence Day as well in the last 4 or 5 years, so that it really has to be a whole of government effort.
So on a final note, I want to again raise this matter of the Dover Terrace Road, where the National Petroleum Corporation came in and did work where they laid new pipes. The side of the road, which would be the northern side of Dover Terrace where they did the work, they reinstated, but they left the southern side of the road in such poor state. We now have puddles of water where we didn't have that before. I really would like someone
The point was well made, and we will follow through. But I suspect they thought you had access to resolving these matters, not just for one utility, but all utilities.
I'm obliged to you, Prime Minister.
Before you leave, Madam Permanent Secretary,
I'm sorry, I didn't say my name.
Alice Jordan, Dover Terrace Permanent Secretary in the Prime Minister's office. Right, I've done it for you. Santia, you want to explain, please?
So P.S., just to your earlier point in relation to the picking up of the garbage, the debris on the road, that is the reason why we changed the model that we're using at MTW. Because again, we recognize that we got to change behavior. And sometimes when you make people more responsible for what and accountable for what they're doing, then you get a different result. So if they're working for MTW or they're working for NCC, they may leave the bags on the ground. They're going to say that the equipment isn't working, which is the famous excuse, as you're well aware. But when we actually outsource now and we allow independent contractors to have to be responsible for that, part of them getting paid is also dependent on them being able to remove the debris within that reasonable period on the road. So it throws the responsibility on them rather than on us having to keep walking around and telling them the garbage is on the road and it hasn't been collected. So hopefully we'll see a change in behavior because we are shifting the responsibility from the government entities and onto the independent contractors. They will hire the vehicles, the trucks, to be able to remove the debris. It's not at MTW. So they have to have trucks that are in good working order to collect the debris as well, and also to have garbage bags to put the debris in as well. Okay? So that's it.
Thank you, DPM. I'm obliged to you.
Thank you. This is the last one. Yes, sir. I saw you raising your hand earlier, but couldn't take you from the floor.
Right. My name is Jeffrey Coyle.
Jeffrey.
I grew up with that beautiful young lady in Dover.
What's the last name?
Coyle.
Right, thanks.
I grew up with that beautiful young lady in Dover. So I know all the things that she's going through. I don't live there anymore, but I still have a property there with my sister. I am from Enterprise, and I have come to beg you all to stop paving the roads. You're wasting money. And if you're, Miss Bradshaw, you're head of MTW, can we get rid of MTW? I'm not joking. Back in 2016 and 2017, I was actually born in Barbados. I am proud Bajan. And I was actually looking at moving to see where I can move to Australia somewhere. Okay? And then this young lady came and got in power and has restored my faith in this country. Okay? I don't know where we will be without y'all. Her and y'all and her team, I can't tell you. Okay? But we need to do something about wastage in this country. Okay? You can't be. Who would pay? If I had to come and do work at your house and fix your yard and come and just throw thing down and tell you, look, man, you drive over it and I can flatten it out. You can pay that bill? You're wasting our money. And it hurts me. Because I on my way out now, you know. But when we spend $200, $300, $400 million to fix the roads, and in 3 years, I can give you all of something. The little egg about there in Sears Court, that road going up that hill was the first road that I can remember being paved. Go and look at it now. Seriously, go and look at it now. You would not believe that that road is just 3 years old. It's still good. All these sides breaking away. The waterworks bent up there. No, it ain't better than it was because it was good 3 years ago when it was first done, and now it gone back like an old road again. Go and walk on the road and see. All these sides breaking away. They had about 3 or 4 burst pipes up there. And the road, what I'm just saying is, in 10 years...
I can see that you are easily distracted. Don't mind the ladies' voices. They may be sweet to the ear, but stay focused.
I went to school here, right? And I am trying my best to on good behavior because I learned to curse here fluently. Right? Fluently. And I am trying to, because I heard you saying that, the tape and everything, so I trying my best. My heart here racing. Much to my dismay that I look at here and I see that picture up there and saddens me. Saddens me. To know that that is an old scholar. That picture should be taken down. Nobody should be looking up to that picture. Perhaps the office, but not that particular picture. And I can talk with my friends on the chat and see if we can get that taken down. And listen,
are you finished?
I don't want you to take credit for all 30 seats, you know.
Nope.
Because that fella up there had a lot to do with it. You make it sport. But I was a proud Bajan, and I was looking to leave out here because I couldn't take it.
Anyhow, anything else, sir?
No. But what I'm saying is, okay?
I take your point about the quality of work.
In your hardest year, I can't remember what year it was, but it was volcano, eruption, all kind of things, okay? You gave young people a chance, okay, to clean up this country. I have never in my 58 years seen young people work and clean this country like those people. Certainly not MTW. They are paid to do it. I mean, yes, those people were paid to do it as well, okay? But never, ever have I seen young people work. One morning I was going walking and I see a whole bunch of young people walking down to the lighthouse. And I said, we have money down there giving away? He said, well, not really. But we're going to collect our checks and our orders for where we're going to clean. Oh, and I told the fella, wait, y'all is the people that clean out the road? And I grabbed at the man, the young fella, so and hugged him. I said, listen, y'all restore my faith back in this country. Huh? And listen, one more thing.
I think that the
One
point
more
that,
thing.
just to remember what Sandra said earlier, the project that she is doing now, about to start now, where we are assigning zones to contractors or companies or whatever, so that this is yours. You get paid on the basis of keeping it clean. So I don't care whether you do it in a day, 5 days, 7 days, but whenever the people pass, twice a month or whatever it is, it must be clean. And that is where we're going. So we're shifting the burden to the people whose sole justification for payment depends entirely on this area being clean and beautified.
Listen, I believe in Barbadians. And you give them an opportunity to do it right, they will do it. Okay? I worked at Brydens for 20 years. The truck drivers used to do 1 delivery a day. You know what Brydens do? Sold the trucks to them. And the maid started making 3 deliveries a day. Huh? Give the people at MTW incentive to do it properly, and it will be done. And listen, you see that thing that is deco, the gutters? You see what's growing there? That's an opportunity. Some boy should come with a truck and pick up all that, add a little manure to it, and go and sell it. It's an opportunity. You got to bring
Just
solutions,
to speak to your
not
issue,
problems.
the issue you raised, the potholes and pothole patching. I agree with you, and I said it earlier if you didn't hear, that yes, we have a big challenge in terms of our operating procedures in government, and in particular in MTW, which we're working on. But pothole patching, and I want to make this clear, will always be part of the maintenance program, particularly when we have had so many years where we did not have any road works being done. So when people say we've done all of these roads under, that's how it was viewed. So we've had to come to office, and while everybody wants a road done, we have 30 constituencies that we have to service.
Listen, I understand
So
you all are up against it.
But just let me finish. So we have no choice but to do mill and pave, while we are also doing, for instance, the Scotland district, while we're also using the 50 million to be able to do the calf roads, the Prior Park and the Shop Hill and all of those other areas. But equally, we also have to do the pothole patching correctly. And that's why I said earlier, what we've tried to do is to limit, in a sense, some of what MTW has been doing for that reason, while we train them up to be able to do it properly and to have the supervision in place, but at the same time, making sure that we have other contractors who are going to cut it, who are going to clean it, and who are going to do it properly as well. Okay?
Just don't let her touch the new roads. Because going up to the airport here, they did up there in the same way. And they got 2 lovely potholes now on the Highway 7 in front of Accra. And I'm just waiting to see what happened there. But it is ridiculous that we are paying that kind of money and getting that kind of work.
Yeah. So just on that as well, because I know Elise mentioned just now the issue of MPC, but it's not just MPC. Sometimes when we are doing a road, we ask the utilities, are you going to carry out any road work, any work on these roads before we actually start? And oftentimes they will say, we may have to lower the mains, we may have to put in some pipes, and we accommodate for that. But after the road is paved, and I know for me, I was telling PM, I'm a little upset too, because I see some of the roads that we did on the mill and pave being cut by the various utility companies. But the truth is that there are times when the heavy equipment has also caused the leaks as well, and for the pipes to rupture.
Yeah.
So it's beyond the control as well of some of the utilities. So I think for me, the bigger concern is if the road has to be broken in order to repair it, we need to do it quickly. Okay, and I think that is where the emphasis has to be. Not so much that Bajans don't appreciate that you're going to have to cut the road at some point. But if you cut it, there must be a time frame within which the utility companies or MTW is asked to reinstate. All right, and I think that's where our focus has to be.
But there's not a problem with digging up the road. It is patching it properly. Because when the gas company does it, they apparently, this is what I was told by, because I'm from Enterprise, and since COVID, we've had about 40 burst pipes up there. That's moderate, probably more. And I went and spoke to a guy yesterday, and he said that they do not patch the roads, that MTW patches it. I said, but how come when the gas company digs up the road, they get, Carl Williams patch the road when they dig it up. So there's the answer. Let Carl Williams do the work. Because if you're spending $200 million, that's an investment, okay? And you don't want me spending that kind of money 20 years down the road. Because those, when you repair, if you patch your roads properly, they will last 40, 50 years. And your children will be, or everybody's children won't have to look for that kind of money, you know, constantly.
Our focus is not to have contractors, any contractor, whether the ones you've called or otherwise, only doing the works. What we have to do at MTW is to improve the standard that all of us expect. So while I am combining the two, which is in-house and outsourcing, it is with a view to improving what we have. But the truth is, I can't improve what we have when there's so many complaints that are out there that people want the roads patched. And that's why we've had to do the outsourcing. Okay? Thank you.
Let me, when you're employed by the government, what's the word that y'all call it? When you're, No. When you work for government and you're then become a part of the government, then appointed. So when you become appointed, that's it. They can't get rid of you.
That's not true. That's not true. But what happens and what does not happen is that very often people do not hold people accountable, because in small societies, people don't want to say that Mr. Coyle come in here in a pair of slippers. You understand? And there's nothing wrong with it, but at the end of the day, all of a sudden people feel that if you're in a job where that isn't acceptable, then it is highly proper that your supervisor tells you that. Yeah. But more often than not, a person feels that any form of criticism of their actions is a criticism of their person, of them personally. And what we have to do is to try and break out you're going to hear me talk enough about culture over this weekend, because there's a culture that has to change in this country, and we've reached the point of this. I'm not going to say any more tonight, but I can speak in this school hall in 48 hours, and I can say what I have to say on those things, because the country will have to accept that in the same way an adult person knows that life is about choices and consequences, it is no different for a country. And this country is 58 years old next month. It had more than enough time to learn about choices and consequences. And we're going to have some serious conversations, because there's only so much we can do and there's only so far we can take it. But a lot of the things that need to be done now in Barbados are not necessarily via legislation or not necessarily via funding or whatever. It has to do with a attitudinal change, a cultural change, a values change. And we're going to have that conversation very fully. Okay? Thank you, sir. I want to thank everybody, as usual, for coming out and sharing. We may not always agree on everything, but what we must always have is the capacity for people to speak and articulate on both sides. Whether it is those who are being governed or those who are governing. And this exercise is one that we will continue. Next month we go into St. Michael, and then next year we want to shift how we do these, because next year is actually the gathering. And we expect people to come back to their parishes, either those who live in this country but move out the parish, or those who live over and away but have come back home to be part of the parish. And I would want, therefore, we're going to announce, I'll announce on Saturday what the new focus will be, in order to be able to facilitate the continued expression of democracy and giving people an opportunity to be heard that would not otherwise be heard in the context of the traditional forms of governance that we have inherited. So I would give the members for Christ Church the last word, as is normally the case. I don't know who wants to speak first. Wilfred, you're at the top. You want to go first, then Ryan. But any closing words from any of you? Okay? Let me come down to you.
Yeah, PM, I just want to say, it is good to hear from people in this format. A lot of the issues raised in Christ Church are issues that we have already on the table. We have them on the radar, and we're trying to deal with some of them. This has been a real full house, right? And properly representative of a number of issues in Christchurch. But don't let it stop here. I mean, for those of you who have issues that you did not raise, for those online who were not here, then reach out to your MP and lodge the complaints with the constituency office, or concerns or suggestions or solutions with the constituency offices, and it will receive as much priority as if you had said it here. So don't let this once a year be the be all and end all of it. Feel free to touch base with your MPs. That's what we're there for. Thank you.
So basically, I just want to echo the first sentiments. The reality is that these opportunities are for us to hear from you directly. And I have suggested to some persons to be much more vocal with respect to their representations, because at the end of it, what we hear consistently really is the need for us to work with each other and to make sure that those of us who work within the public service, that you too can, in your own way, bring pressure to bear on them, because at the end of the day, they're Barbadians just like us, you're taxpayers. And to the extent that you need to get responses, really, the reality is that there are Barbadians who are responsible every day for delivering these solutions. And whilst we as members of parliament and ministers can give policy direction in relation to what happens, at the end of the day, somebody's family has to get up and go to work tomorrow to be able to solve some of these problems. And I think if we are consistent with respect to how we are engaging and holding people to account, then we would see, subject to, you heard the Prime Minister speak to the fact that things have become a little more affordable, but that took hard work, and the reality now is that we are in a position to do a little more, but it means that the people who are responsible for doing that delivery have to better coordinate the responses in relation to that. And you have our commitment that we will continue to advocate on your behalf and the country's behalf in relation to how the services of the government are discharged. Thank you.
Thank you. Not the MP, but candidate, looking for everybody to do right by me. But I just wanted to say I'm very heartened by the constructive engagement that we heard this evening. Citizens identifying very real problems, but also as well putting on the table solutions. Yeah, and I think that speaks very well to how we should be able to continue to engage. But I also heard as well a commitment from the MPs here, and also adding myself as well, to continue to be responsive to the concerns that we have heard. Certainly for those in the constituency that I'm seeking to represent, many of you I would have already spoken to and walked with as well. And I think that continued partnership between us of hearing, listening, and being responsive is what will give us ultimately the best results. Sometimes things are complex. They take a little bit longer than we would like. But again, once the commitment is there to be able to listen to one another and to commit to work with one another, I think then we will get to the best solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I want to thank, obviously, the constituents from the fulcrum of Christchurch West Central. But what is important for me and what has come out in a very limpid way through all the parish speaks, and nothing is different tonight, is that we must have sound partnerships. And when I say partnerships, I mean the community must be able to partner with government if we are to have true sustainable development, if we are to have true success as a country. It means that we must work together. So your ideas that you bring here and our policies must interfuse in a special way. And that is what is most important to me. So I want you to continue to agitate, advocate on your own behalf, on the behalf of your community, because it can only ensure that we have a better Barbados. It is the important step of building forward better. And I know that as a country and as a people, we can do it together. So partnerships are very important for me. Thank you.
And all I would add is I'm very proud of my team of Christ Church. I think all of the members have properly and appropriately acquitted themselves. And rest assured, we work every day to make Barbados better. And that is obvious. We don't always get it right, but we try to fix when we get it wrong. And I think our opportunity to come and listen to you when we get it wrong and then endeavor to make it right. And I think that is the main thing that always comes out of these Parish Speaks wherever we go. And we will continue to do that so that we can make Barbados better for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's one outstanding matter I'd like for us to recognize, that one of the longest serving representatives of Christ Church above our head would have passed yesterday afternoon. And I would not know, and we will do it as a party, but I'm not here as a party now, we're doing this as the government and Christ Church people, that I'd like us to stand and have a minute's silence in tribute to Sir Henry Ford. Thank you. Soul rest in peace, and may his family be comforted by his memory and the great contribution he made to this parish and to this country. Thank you. Good night, and everyone get home safely. Thank you.